Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We've had a little bit of a delay the last couple of weeks, and not to bum you guys out, but I lost my grandfather July 10th, and it kind of sucked. I mean, it definitely sucked, but he had cancer, and he had got diagnosed probably February sometime, and it was tough, man. It's tough because my grandfather was like my dad. He was responsible for, helping me start my shops in the beginning, and he did a ton of body work and repair work for me over the years. And, it was just really hard to see him go. And, so we just kind of was chilling out, trying not to get too vocal, I guess you'd say, on these podcasts at the time. But, we're back again, and I got Tim O'Keefe, hope you guys are following him. He's a owner and photographer, does Stag magazine. Really cool dude and very talented with a camera. Really insightful man. He's been on Danger Dan's podcast quite a few times, and literally every time I listen to the podcast of Danger Dan's with Tim, I just walk away like wanting more, I guess you'd say. So we had him on, and good times and stuff like that. But real quick, before we get too far into this, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. I want to thank Dream Rides, and I hope you guys up there in NorCal went out to that FXR, the West Coast FXR jam that I want to say John was either completely did it all by, I wouldn't say all by himself, but he definitely, had a lot to do with bringing a West Coast FXR jam to the West Coast. So anyway, hopefully you're following John Jessup up there. Dream Rides John on Instagram, teamdreamrides.com. Also, you guys know that you can go to this website, teamdreamrides.com, check out all the parts and products they sell, and you can use Fast Life at checkout for 10% off. If you're lucky enough to be in the NorCal area, you can go check him out. He's in Stockton, California, does full service builds, service work, bike sales, got some dyno in there. He's everything you need for your bike in that area. So check him out and let him know you heard about him through the podcast. I also want to thank Kevin over at Big Bear Choppers. Man, what awesome things that, that suspension has done for me in my riding and the bike and whatnot. So, if you guys want to check it out or get some more information on it, man, check Kevin out. Go listen to the podcast we did with him at Big Bear Choppers on Instagram, bigbearperformance.com. Check it out. He has a ton of products, not just Olin suspension for just about all Harley models, but tons and tons of products to help your bike look better, run better, act right. It's awesome. So check him out. You can also give him a call at 909-478-7788. And Kevin's going to answer that phone and answer any questions you have. And like I said, man, he's really the guy. If you're going to go suspension, you want a guy like him in your corner to be able to help you with all the fine tuning and really help you understand what it's all about, what this is going to do, what that's going to do. And he's really the man for it. So check him out and let him know you got his info from the podcast. I appreciate that. I also want to thank my dude over there at Paint Huffer Metal Flake. You can follow him on Instagram at Paint Huffer Metal Flake. You can also check out their website at painthuffer.com. And you can also, whatever you're basically, if you're over there looking at flakes or pearls or tapes, you can check out and use Fast Life for, 15% off. That's a pretty good little deal that Brian has for you guys over there. So check him out. And don't forget to follow him on Instagram. Lots of great photos of badass paint jobs from awesome painters. So check him out. I also want to thank Lindahl Brakes for keeping my bike stopping and looking good in the process. LindahlBrakes.com. You can check out the wheels, brakes, brake pads, lots of stuff. They got something for every budget. And pretty much you're going to be able to, use a Fast Life checkout code again and save yourself 10% off. At Lindahl Brakes on Instagram, you can see tons and tons of bikes that run their products. Lots of big name people across the country that swear by it. I'm one of them. I'm not a big name person, but I swear by Lindahl. So check them out and Fast Life at checkout for 10% off. I also want to thank Lex and Moto. Pretty much changed my life with listening to music on my motorcycle. I've never been one to listen to music much, even though I have a bagger and I have a radio. I do enjoy the silence of riding and stuff like that. But, this last trip we took to Cali, man, having that headset, just was awesome, and if you don't know about Lex, and we did the podcast, which you can check them out, but For a quick recap, Lex & Moto builds premium Bluetooth audio devices for riders at a realistic price. Man, $150, you're going to get in their top of the line product. You can listen to this podcast while you're riding down the road doing 80, 90 miles an hour. As long as your helmet is like, it's decently quiet, I guess you'd say. But for the most part, I did it in my Simpson and my Bell. It worked out great for me. So check them out, lexandmotorcycle.com, Lex and Moto on Instagram, and 15% off when you use Fast Life at checkout. And that's going to really help you get with the ball of this, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm stumbling, guys. It's been a minute. Haven't been able to, get these podcasts. We moved. We went to Cali. We did all this shit. It's been a roller coaster of things going on here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the Fast Life Garage and all the shit we got going on. So I appreciate you guys and your patience, and looking forward to bringing on some more podcasts this month for you guys as well. So anyway, don't want to drag this out any longer. So check out my boy, Tim.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
That part or that concept has been in my head for. All right, let me back up, I guess. So when we first found out my grandfather had, the cancer stuff,
Right.
The whole family was kind of like, kind of getting in my head, like, oh, it's bad. It's, stage 4. He's got like 2 weeks kind of thing. But
Right.
I've never seen him before, so I didn't really know what to expect from it. And hold on, let me get these things right. I didn't really know what to expect from it. So I had the opportunity to ride out to, or not necessarily ride, but go to Vegas and do a job.
Right.
So I was like, man, fuck it. Like, I want to ride it. And it was in February, right? February.
Yeah, it's fucking cold.
It's fucking cold. So I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna ride to Vegas and, try to knock some podcasts out, do the job. And realistically, in hindsight, the whole thing was like, I didn't want to be here if he passed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I could just be in the middle of the desert somewhere, or fucking in Cali or something, somewhere else, to where once he did pass, I would head home, but I would have all that time on the way home to just deal with it alone, you know? And so, like, that was one thing. And the other thing about that trip was I had bought a GoPro, and, I'm trying to also capitalize off business, and I want to make it to where, like, we're getting all this cool footage of me riding bikes or whatever the fuck, a vlog or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Right.
And the whole time I'm in there, I'm like, riding, I'm on 10 because I'm trying to get there, so I'm not really taking back roads. And, the sun's going down. It's badass. I'm like, fuck, man, I should pull over and pull the cameras out. But I'm just like, man, this feels too, like heavenly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And so, like, from that point on, I was, like, getting in my head every time. And I was like, man, like, is any of this shit ever going to feel like that again? Or is everything that I post or that we put online or that we do, is it all going to be like some kind of posed filtration of what the real thing was? Like amplify the colors, and you know what I mean? All this shit, you know what I mean?
Well, man, my experience is that it's so nothing is ever the same twice.
I agree.
So that experience, I don't know, man. I think that to the point we work, you're doing something, you're thinking like, how do I share this?
Yeah.
And when it becomes just about that, like it loses. So I think that it sounds like what was happening is the reality was taking precedence. So you're like, you see, and for me, traveling, it's the same thing. No matter where I am or what I'm doing, I look at something. Like, there have been times where I've been in circumstances where I should pull out my camera, and capture something, but I don't do that because I think that it ruins the moment, and I'd really rather experience the moment than capture it. Now, sometimes, I regret.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you have that regret afterwards?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because that's kind of what I had after the trip, where I was like, fuck, man, like I just had the perfect opportunity to capitalize off all these ideas that have been plaguing my head for so long. And then once you're there and it's time to fucking act on it, you're just kind of like, whether it's cold feet, or realistically you are just enjoying what's taking place?
I don't think it's cold feet. I think that you want to have I think that we as human beings want to have an organic experience. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some things are a little too personal to share. And you know, so it kind of goes back to like the Native American view of cameras. Mm-hmm. With like Edward S. Curtis, and he comes out, and if I'm correct, I believe that they thought that like this machine stole their soul.
What? Damn.
So when he took a photo of them, they felt that they avoided those circumstances because they felt a part of them was being taken. So, you know, now this is so like having your photo taken, or having, you know, the thought of what we do now, like it's so, but if you think about it, it does take bits of you.
Yeah.
And you wonder what's left when you've done it so much. You're like, what the fuck is left? Like, what is left of me? You know, recently, like in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I've started to feel like, you know, I think any idea has its encompassing amount of energy. Mm-hmm. And the more you talk about it, like let's say I'm designing the iPhone. If I start to talk about what I'm working on, the iPhone, mm-hmm. you know, the energy can't be recouped.
So it's like you're giving it away.
Giving it parts of that energy away. So the inherent energy of the iPhone itself is bit by bit, the more I talk about it, mm-hmm. is leaving. So it becomes less organic, I think. So I think that, like, you know, when we work creatively, if we just shut the fuck up and do our work, then when you show it, it has its pure potential, instead of talking about it so much that you're like, you know, you've given its heartbeat away. So it's really kind of a carcass that's left. It doesn't have the impact.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's already been laid out. Like, yes. Even if it did come to fruition, it would already be out there.
Yeah. I mean, like, I want to see progress pics. Like, fucking use your imagination.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people in the marketing, I understand the marketing idea behind someone wanting to see progress. Mm-hmm. But that to me is kind of like a reveal is a reveal. You know, like when you say like, here, this is what so we've talked about what I've been working on. Here it is. Like you haven't formed any. See, if we talk about, we'll go back to the iPhone analogy. If we talk about the iPhone and I'm not specific, then, you know, maybe you imagine it as a big fucking machine, or, you know, you have all of these things. And when I pull it out and show it to you, you're either like blown away or you're disappointed, but you have expectations.
Oh yeah. You create that level of expectation that you have to meet now.
Yeah. When really, so, I mean, I would, from my point of view, like, I don't want anybody to have any expectations. I just want to put what I'm working on mm-hmm. out there, and people either dig it or they don't dig it, like that. But I think that all of our ideas, so you go through with like Instagram and social media, you try to present all this stuff and you're hoping that it bears fruit, because we're all trying to make money with what we're doing. Like it's the new world model of, you know, instead of working for somebody, you're working. Like, this is work. Like, all of this is work. So that's
what's weird about it, right? Is it like almost everything about social media, when it first started, let's say like MySpace, like we were just trying to get laid or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then now it's like everybody, including myself and everybody else, it's like we're all selling something.
Yes.
You know, everything, like we're all turned into these little marketer, you know, ants basically, and we're all just basically feeding, you know what I mean? It's kind of, to me it sucks, because like I started following, you know, you guys here in the DFW area, the Chopper, you know, your little, I don't know the right way to say it, but just
dude,
you guys.
Yeah.
And that, I was so influenced when I first came around, because, you know, coming from the big wheel shit, like you guys had a different attitude.
Right.
You know, towards motorcycles, towards hanging out. Like, it wasn't a big dick show. And you know what I mean? It was just like, fuck, man, like, these dudes are cool as shit. you know, and they don't have a big ass dually along with their bike. You know, they're cool. You know what I mean? And so like I was more or less in my thought back in like 2017, I felt like I was like marketed to follow into this trend or follow into this, you know, this path of like what you guys were all doing around here.
Right.
Well, and it's kind of blossomed into my own thing now, but it's still.
And that's the beauty of it. Well, see, I think the beauty of it is that you're influenced by people and you take those influences. It's how you use the influences. You know, I don't believe that ideas are all that original. In fact, maybe they're not original at all. It's probably healthier for creative people to just look at them as food. Mm-hmm. So you found something that you like the flavor of it and you eat it. Mm-hmm. But you turn it into your own thing. You don't like, it's not plagiarism. It's not like I'm going to take this and make this.
Yeah.
You know, that to me, I think is when you being like, man, really that's just being stoked. Like it's your, like you walk into a situation and you're like, fuck, this is. So it helps open doors within you. Yeah. So all of these experiences, that's to me like what we're looking to do.
And so I feel like in that aspect, like that part was great because I really enjoy where my life started going with these new influences, right? So, right. But I guess where, you know, not that things are mundane now or not, I'm not stoked to go do the same things as I was doing. It's just like, now that life has become more entangled in
mechanized
social media and the thought of promotion and the thought of like, fuck man, I gotta paint this bike. I gotta find a cool way to take a picture of it to post it online. When, you know, it used to be like, hey, let me paint this bike. And then it's just like, let's go to bike night. Right. Or let's go to the car show. Now it's like, fuck those. Like I need to get likes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it kind of, and it feels good. It feels good when people do, like you said, like, you know, they're either stoked or they're not. And it feels really fucking good when they are stoked. Yeah. You know, and it's like, man, it just feels like you're continuing to chase this like system. You know what I mean?
You know, the crazy thing is I think that, like, I have become really, really, really fucking disenchanted with Instagram. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like it's like I make a post and I gain 20 followers and I lose 30 followers and so it's like girls, motorcycles, girl on a motorcycle. But now I feel like if I do something other than motorcycle, girl on motorcycle, that it just, and I know that it's not people. Mm-hmm. It's this fucking algorithm that is saying like people don't want to see this from you. Yeah. They want to see this. So they only allow, I mean, this is truly like a fucking man against machine type thing for me. Agree, yeah. You know, I'm like, fuck you. You know, I'm not going to be bullied around by your fucking algorithm. Like, if I have X number of followers, show them the fucking image and let them interact with it. Like, I don't need you figuring out what my followers need to fucking, or the people who follow me. That sounds fucking weird saying.
Yeah, I hate saying that shit too.
Move over. But anyways, to the point, like, if someone follows me, I feel like they're doing it for a reason, and I want to give them that reason. And that's, you know, it's, so I've felt really fucking stifled to the point where I'm like, I just don't feel like liking anybody's photos. I don't feel like fucking posting shit. Yeah. I think that what they wanted, you know, the people, the think tank at Instagram, they wanted people to interact with each other. And it's having an adverse effect on me. The point of the algorithm change was to monetize it for Instagram and for Facebook because it's the same thing. Yeah, right. So basically it's like then they made the option for you to have a business profile. Right. And now they got the profiles for like influencers and, you know, just about all these other different types of categories, but it's all still a business profile. The craziest, you gotta pay for all that shit. Well, the craziest thing is that like when you sign up for those, it gives you the analytics, and the analytics are actually, when you look at the analytics, those are the most stifling fucking things ever. You're like, okay, people are reacting, instead of it being a like. I've always, I left Facebook in like 2011. I'm not exactly sure of the years, but I think it was about 2011, and I came directly to Instagram because I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
And Instagram was about fucking images and a few words, and that was it. Like, that's all I used like song lyrics and images. My hope would be that like people would look at the fucking image and then go like look at the lyrics and be like, what fucking song is this? Or if they knew the song, they could hear the song and look at the image. That was my way of trying to get them to interact. I just, so I always felt when I started that, I felt like a like was $1. So I got the marketing aspect of it, like, X number of people like this, that's X number of dollars. So it's not thinking about how can I make money off of this. I was really just looking to see what moved people and what didn't. Yeah. And you could, because like all of your followers saw all of your imagery and your movies or your videos and all that stuff. But that's just then now, I'm like, with the analytics, I think like, how many people are even fucking seeing? I mean, they give you these, like, here's your reach or all these other fucking things. And I think like, man.
Well, I think it sucks because not everybody's using Instagram to physically turn it into not everybody's trying to market against it. Everybody like I my main bread and butter is paint, but I can't paint more than 30 bikes a year. I can't even do that. I might be able to do 10 or 15 bikes a year.
Right.
So 10 or 15 out of X amount of people that follow me, like, I'm not putting this out there to get business. I'm just, what I liked about Instagram was what I do still like about it is just the connectivity to people that you meet, that you are stoked about what they do, and they're stoked about you, and like, fuck, I'm in town, fuck, let's meet. It sounds gay, but basically it is just cool as shit to just expand your reach of friends basically across the country.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing is, and I'm sure you found this, that you go somewhere and now, so we're in North Carolina, and
oh, you went to the congregation?
The congregation show. Yeah, we're sitting there, and I was eating some lunch, and Jamie always works the booth, but so this guy came up and just kind of blurted out, I feel like I know you. So I'm in a mid bite of a sandwich or something. I feel like I know you. And I finished chewing and I said, well, you do. Because what I present is who I am. Like, if I talk about what I'm doing, like the podcast, Dan's podcast, whatever it is, like that's the stuff I like to talk about. Like so, I don't, I mean, if you feel like you know me, that made me feel like, all right, so I feel like, now, obviously it would have been, had we been in the middle of like maybe a deeper conversation or something, and he said like, well, I feel like, I already knew all this. I feel good about that because I don't, I think like, that's what it should be. And I don't like the fucking word transparency, but like, that's what it is that like, to your point, that we share our lives and then, you go somewhere. I mean, with the magazine, that is the idea that the magazine, you get the magazine, you look at it. What I want you to do, my hope is that you fucking go and talk to that person. So it isn't like you read about, like, let's say I feature your bike and we have this big write-up on you, and then that's it. Like, they close the book, they put the magazine away, and that's it. Like, they know all they need to know about your bike, and then they see it in person, and they regurgitate some facts to somebody standing there. What I want is that, like, they fucking go and engage you. Yeah. And you get to share that. You get to have that experience with them. That's my hope. So when people see bikes in the magazine or anything in the magazine, I hope it leads to a conversation. Conversation. Because that's really, I mean, our humanity, that's what we fucking have. Like, if we don't, so you can present all this stuff, but if you're not presenting it, like, I don't know.
It's almost like if you put too much information out there. Like like I like what you said about when you first started doing your Instagram, how you would take this picture, which I love to talk about your pictures in a little bit, but on to this point, it's like you put the picture and then you put something else out there that engages someone to think about it or to, maybe they do know those lyrics and then all of a sudden, how songs are to our past or whatever, it just catapults you into almost like a psychedelic state while you're looking at this picture.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
That is by design. Like I am trying to tap into all of your memories. So if you play a song, I think song lyrics work best. I mean, I really like moving imagery with music.
Yeah.
I like the idea of doing films, but I really like the idea of doing very short films with music, because I think it just brings up like all of your, and it's organic to you. Like I can have my experience, you can have your experience, this person can have their experience, and it's I think that's special. And I don't know, man, that's kind of
I agree, man. Like that's cool, and that's kind of like, because you know what, when you listen to like any of the marketers or the the marketing thing, the Gary V's and all these people in the world that, you can't help but listen to it, because some of it actually is good advice. And
of course.
Some of it sounds really good, and it becomes like this challenge, like, oh man, I'm going to get more followers on Instagram, or I'm going to turn this into email accounts and, all these other things that everybody's doing.
Right.
Yeah. And so you start looking at like something that you did, like whether it's an airbrush picture or this really cool shot your buddy got of you while you're riding across, Utah or some shit. And you feel like this picture isn't good enough alone. Like it needs to have some paragraph of explanations under it.
Right.
And I found myself getting into the point where I'm like, I have all these badass pictures, but I don't have anything to say about it, so I haven't been posting them.
Right.
When realistically, it's like, man, like Instagram is about pictures. Like put the shit out there.
That's it.
I
would encourage you to 100% do that and not describe anything, because I genuinely believe that everything that it's all encapsulated in all of our emotions. Whatever I'm working on issue, in fact, I just finished issue 11 right now, and all of what I'm experiencing is in there. I used to do these things where I sat down with people and showed them 10 photographs and then would ask them to write. So photograph 1 comes up, have them write, like just real briefly, I made space, just a small paragraph about like what popped into their head. Next image, what popped into their head. So I did this over, a series of probably a couple of years. I didn't do it all the time. I did maybe this 20, 25 times. And what emerged immediately, it was strange that like, it was really nice. I was happily surprised that what people felt, there was a commonality. So there was a string through what people felt.
So it was tapping into the same places on those.
But the narrative was different, but the emotion. So where it was coming from the same place. Over a broader spectrum, I found that what I was experiencing, like I would put music on and sit in the dark room. I'd print these images, I'd watch them come up in Developer, get them into the stop bath, fix them. So this is a very different process. Like when you spend long periods of time in a dark room, a psychosis. If you're vitamin deficient in certain areas, like a psychosis, you'll have this kind of fucking trippy shit happen to you. So, when I was in there printing some of these for long periods of time, there would be fucked up emotions in there, like really, anxious, jittery shit. That shit translated into these images. And they were all mostly abstract. Like there weren't pictures of like, oh, it's a stick and a rock. It wasn't that. Like they were abstract, so you couldn't really tell what they were. And that's what I was looking for, is what kind of emotion did it elicit from people. So over the whole period of doing this, I found that people would tap in to that anxiety. To my point, we are encoding like our emotions into the work that we do. Like,
yeah. So, you know, that first podcast you did with Dan, it really kind of, you guys really dove into like your background and, you know, coming from California to here, right. And that, you know, those first steps into photography, you know what I mean? Which is, I guess we should have started with that as like your bread and butter. That's your thing.
Yeah.
But when you first started doing photography, if I can remember, it wasn't really necessarily the bikes. It was just more for the photography.
Oh, it wasn't at all. When I first started, I was looking for spirit. Mm-hmm. I was looking for, spirit is the best way that I can describe it. So I was doing a lot of landscapes. Mm-hmm. I kind of was just photographing my surroundings. There's this lady, Ruth Bernard. She had a book called The Gift of the Commonplace. And the idea, this is like 40s or 50s, I think. The idea of photographing your surroundings, but elevating it to something like, oh, we're sitting at a table. Okay, well, look at the table through the lens and capture it in a way that it's elevated beyond a table. Mm-hmm. So it's elevated beyond its mundane, like, oh, here's a fork. Okay, well, photograph the fork in a way that like it transcends.
I would definitely say that because, like, for instance, the last time I was at your house here was when Dan was here. Everybody was here, Scott, right. Everybody.
Right.
And you shot, I don't remember which issue it was, but you shot Scott's bike.
It was issue 3.
And you literally shot it across the street in this little grass parking lot church.
Right.
And, you know, in my head, I was like, you know, I know you have skills, so I know it's going to come out cool. But then I see these photos done in the magazine, and I'm like, God damn, Scott didn't look that damn cool that day. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same concept, is where you're elevating the new subjects now, and you're doing the same thing.
I'm doing the exact same thing.
And it's crazy because when I look at your photography, you know, put it like this. Most people that I guess amateurs is the best way to put it, myself and a lot of people, we're always looking for a backdrop. Like the backdrop's going to make the photo, when realistically the photo is what you're taking a picture of. It's up to you to turn it into whatever it needs to be.
People have always said like, hey, I've got this great place to shoot this. And I'm like, it isn't about the place. Yeah. Like if the place inspires you to feel something extraordinary, then I'm down to shoot there. But for the most part, I don't give a fuck about where we shoot. Like to me, it's about sculpting with light. Like when you're shooting something, you're looking for the way light is moving on it, moves over it, moves around it. Like it's sculpted. So these really fucking heavy ideas come from these old, you know, Ansel Adams, Paul Strand, Alfred Stieglitz, people through the 30s. You know, most of them are dead. A lot of them, Emmett Gowan, they have these really fucking heavy ideas about their work. And you look at their work. So you look at their work and you're like, man, there's something about this that is intriguing. I don't know, you know, it's so captivating, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then before you would buy, you know, I would go to, we lived near UC Davis. We lived north of Davis. UC Davis had a fucking insane library, photo library. So I would go check out these monographs from these people. There, you know, some of them are first edition, you know, there's only one edition. There's, you know, so I had access to these books and I would read, you know, these people's thoughts, their thought processes on what they were doing. And it's heavy, heavy, heavy shit. But from those experiences, like I applied all of that to what I was doing photographically. And then as I settle into that, I just start applying it to everything in my life. Like however you engage, like how you engage people, I just watched a documentary this morning called The Creative Brain. And it's this always learning, and the way that it all kind of falls into place when you need it to. But yeah, backgrounds are, if you're paying attention to the background, I feel like I've fucked up. Genuinely, I haven't done my job. If you're like, oh my God, that grain silo looks so fucking killer. Like, I mean, there is a, it can be an element, but if I'm photographing you, I want to engage you.
Yeah.
I don't, like, that's,
that's... There's I guess there's exceptions to it, or whatever you want to call it, because, I guess Kirpius does really nice photography of, like, actual ride. I mean, he does great photography everywhere, but I do like it seeing a good picture of someone on a bike. Like, I want that David Mann-esque kind of picturesque thing too as well. But that's where I was getting at earlier with that original conversation, of how, like, a lot of that shit just doesn't come naturally.
No,
it has to, like, when you're the guy, like, if I'm riding and you're taking a picture of me, I'm trying my best to look cool as fuck. You know what I mean? I'm not doing what I'm normally doing, which is, like, probably like tunnel vision, maybe picking my nose through my helmet or something like that. That would
be the stuff. Honestly, if I followed you and photographed you, that would be the stuff. I'm always looking for the. I can use this as an example. Like, I photographed this person, and they were very, very aware of, like, their angles, like how they looked best via Instagram. They were very aware of what got likes and what didn't get likes. So it's the first time we shoot, and I brought the camera up, and they went, the person switched. Flick straight up on. They become what they think Instagram wants to see. I'm looking through the lens. I see that. I shot probably 10 frames, and I stopped and I said, hey, we're not doing any of that at all. That person, they kind of broke down.
Yeah.
Like, I saw behind, like, hey, Oz, what's happening? Like, I see.
Would you say it's like, for some people, I mean, in this place it probably crosses over for both of us in our respective art crafts, but do you think that maybe the subject has doubts in your artistic artistic and they feel like...
I think it's 100% about them.
Yeah, like them, like they're...
It's yes, they are, it's a conditioning. So I said, we're not doing any of that. And I brought the camera back up, and I saw a couple of tears come down. I dropped the camera and I said, man, now we're getting somewhere. Like, this is really what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, this is the good shit. Like, there is no, so it isn't pretend. I don't want the best version of you. I want the real version of you. That's what, and everybody has their way of engaging, photographers. Everybody has, if they do it well, they have their way and, their MO of engaging their subject matter. And we all have a place. There is, you could do something, I don't know. I feel that there's room for everybody doing everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I'm not like, I think that what happens is that, I typically have longer conversations with people before we shoot. And when we start shooting, they're apprehensive, and then bit by bit, they start loosening up. And I'm big with direction. Like, I know what I want to see. I know. I used to shoot with a fixed. I think it was a 50 millimeter lens. 50, 52, whatever the fuck it was. It's just a normal lens, so I got in your fucking face.
Yeah.
Like, I got close, starting off. So close that people were like, you could see them like, get the fuck away from me. And then I would step back and put a little bit longer lens on. And then I would start shooting them. But I knew that what I needed to do was get them loosened up.
Yeah.
So the conversation I found now, instead of doing that, a conversation usually, like, I'll get into, it won't just be a regular conversation. Hey, it may start like, how was the drive over, or something like that. But I want to get into the depth of, I want to get into the deep end. Mm-hmm. And then when we start shooting, like, we can get to kind of the meat of the matter.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for. That's what people respond to. So when people, they have a similar response, they'll look at an image and they're like, fuck, dude, like, this was in your backyard and your dog was like right here. But the way that I've brought it, mm-hmm. To light is, it's not that. Like, we've transcended that. And that's, to me, that's the whole thing. Like,
one of the things that I think that you and Dan talked about, I don't think it was on this last podcast, but it was one before, and it's something that I really, really admire about your photography, and it's the ability to capture women in a way that, like, it's not like this, like, you see them and you see like a nip or right. something like that, and you're like, fuck, man, like, this is, right. I really don't know the right word to use here, but it's so artistic, but it's at the same time, it's like erotic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it's like, evocative. I mean, I want you to be, let's put it this way. What I want is I want you to be aroused, but I want you to feel bad if you whipped out your dick and started jacking off.
Yeah.
So see, the thing is that this gets into this in modern day dynamics.
What I look at it is that, like, you swipe through Instagram and either some business is sharing some chick that they gave their shirt to that they want, that's got big ass tits or something like that. And I mean, as a guy, like, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but
right.
But it's flooded with that. It's flooded with totally. Those things. And so, like, when you post a picture of something you've shot recently, or you repost something you've done prior to this, then it's like I stare at it. Right. I literally will sit there and look at it. And I'm not looking at the same way I was, looking at the other chick. I didn't go back to her page, started looking and see what kind of freaky ass shit she does.
Right.
But I'm just looking like, fuck, man, like, now I do feel in that place. I feel like, man, I'm working in the garage and that's my chick trying to get me to come pay attention to her
yep.
while I'm trying to work on my bike yep. or my car or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
that's I've if I do my job right, I put you in the driver's seat. Mm-hmm. That's really what I'm looking to remove myself. Mm-hmm. Like, so when you look through the images, I want you to be captivated.
Yeah, you feel like you're seeing it with your own eyes.
Well,
yeah.
you are. Yeah. This is the thing is that you are. Like, to me, it's about working from the premise of creating organic experiences. Mm-hmm. Not like, and I think, like, when we talk about marketing or that, like, I think it's the ability to take a product and make it organic, like, that's what I strive to do. I don't know whether it's reassuring to hear you say that. And when people, for as many people swipe through and look at images, mm-hmm. very, very few people take the time to say something like that.
Yeah, I don't say anything because my wife was like, "Why are you looking at that?"
Well, I mean, even if it's about boots or whatever, yeah. Whatever it is, we could go out and I could shoot something on your bike and turn it into every bit. Yeah. I could make it erotic. And that's that goes back to the abstract stuff. That's what I was looking to do. Can you present, the relationship of these sunglasses, my phone, and that pot? Can I display those in a way that they sit, not necessarily without having to move them? Mm-hmm. Can I move around in a way that I get them all to fire off something in a viewer? And that what I found is that you can, but you have to spend time engaging.
I would almost think that, like, with, because for me too, like, when I first started getting on Instagram, and one of my photographer friends used to do pictures of our bikes for magazines. He was like, "Man, you do all these trips, you should get a decent camera and start taking photos of it." So I did, and
right.
And it's fun, man. It's really cool. Once you start learning how to, like, blur backgrounds and yep. Learn a little bit of the aperture, ISO, and shutter speed stuff.
Absolutely.
But realistically, like, there's no real training there. I didn't spend the kind of time that like I did to learn how to airbrush, right?
Right.
And so that's where that disconnect for me with like my own personal photography that I try to engage in. I feel like I can take a picture of my work and my day-to-day shit pretty okay for, you know, who I am. But, you know, you see the stuff that you do and it makes me go home. I'm like, fuck, man, I can dust this lens off. And, you know, I want to do that now. Like it inspires me to want to be able to tap into that vision of something, right? Because the image is there.
Right.
I'm seeing the same, like if that girl's in the garage right now and you're taking a picture, I'm looking at the same thing you are.
Right.
But you're somehow seeing it differently than I am at the moment.
Right.
Or maybe it's through the lens or...
What it is this. So, I mean, you know, you have people, occasionally I'll field questions. The thing is that it's you. Mm-hmm. So just like, so, you know, if somebody has your airbrush rig, if they have, you know, if they mix the paint exactly like you paint, what's missing? Like, let's say they walk into your shop and have access to all your stuff. Are they going to create what you create? No. I can tell you right now with 100% certainty, they're not.
Yeah.
And they're not going to. Because what happens is once you pick up an airbrush, you have a way that you begin to, it's the same with tattoo. It's the same with anybody creating anything.
Yeah.
You know, some person starts in this quadrant, like let's say it's mapped out, like here it is, it's 12 by 7. Some person starts down here in the lower right corner. Everybody has their way of going about it, but the thing is the flow.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I hate to say the word organic too many times, but the flow of things, the flow of your process is what. So if my guess is this, is that if you still have interest in photography, you continue, you know, using it, even just on the side. Once you realize that it's the way you engage the world, mm-hmm. like it isn't just, oh, well, I'm good at this thing in my life. If you apply that to everything you do will
yeah.
be.
So I think to play on that, it's like, I feel like you kind of said it before about talking about plagiarism and things like that. I wholeheartedly believe that all artists are inspired by other artists, right? Of course. And so for me, growing up in airbrushing, and the same thing whenever I started getting into the photography stuff, which I haven't messed with in a while, but you find the people that speak to you the most, yes. right? And it's almost like you're trying to learn how to do what they do. And in that process of learning, you start to create your own. Yes. It's almost like, it's like everything, right? I'm taking parts from this guy that I like and this guy and this guy. And now all of a sudden I'm my own guy, but I'm really just made up of all my influences.
Right. Well, see, the thing is this is the way I view the creative process. You start with it starts with an emulation. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I feel like I can do this, and I feel like I can do this aspect. The thing is it's when you find your own voice. Mm. It's when your distinctive voice appears. And so what I've always encouraged people to do is not concentrate on the emulation. People can get lost on the emulation. I think that this is particularly important right now with Instagram and immediate likes. Like, mm-hmm. you look and you see that, like, Dave Jones fucking is killing it. He's getting all these likes. Therefore, I'm going to do what Dave Jones does. Yeah. And then you get all the likes. No one is rewarding you for being fucking you. They're rewarding you for being a knockoff of somebody else. Like, that's... never mind that it's not cool to Dave Jones. It's fucking ultimately disrespectful to yourself. Like, mm-hmm. So I've always been big on, like, hey, you know, find your own voice. Like that, when you find your voice. So all I've ever tried to do is point out strong points in people's work to say, like, this is emerging. Me looking at what you're doing, this is emerging as your part of your voice. Yeah, yeah. You know, not the replicating of what's been done, but like, so you replicated that, but check it out. Like, here's you. Like this little thing right here. People typically are like, oh, fuck that. Because that's what we do.
Because they're chasing that other thing.
Well, the thing is that we discount ourselves. Like, people discount themselves, and they put so much value in other people and discount themselves. So when someone points out, like, yeah, but check it out.
Yeah,
this is you right here. Like, this is you. Check it out. They're usually like, yeah, but fuck that. Like, that's boring. Look at this. This looks like yours. And I'm like, yeah, but that's like, you don't want that. You want it to be you. I have had the fortunate circumstance of having, being with people that will later come and say, like, hey man, fuck, I get it. Like, I see now what you were talking about. And I'm like, yeah, you're you. You've always been you. You've always seen this the way you see things. But now you're concentrating on doing it your way. Well,
it's almost another thing is like, because when I was growing up and doing the custom paint, like the industry that it was in, I didn't really have the luxury of getting that positive conversation with a like-minded artist because we were kind of all bred to be against each other. It was like this cutthroat industry I feel like it's been like that up until the fact that social media liberated us from eating out of the same pot, for the most part. But yeah, man, I totally agree, man.
I'll tell you though, for me, it has to do with the way that someone asks the question.
Yeah, for sure.
If someone just walks up and says, "How do I steal all your followers?" My response is, "Fuck you, get out of here."
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, like, that's not even remotely fucking, like, that's not cool. Not only is it not cool, it's like, fucking, why do you want to do that? Like,
well, it's like for the same thing for us, like people hit me up a lot asking certain questions about certain things that we do. And it's like, there is since I know the process, I know the question, like if they ask this question, I know where he's at.
Exactly.
And I have more sympathy to help someone that's asking me that question from that place.
From a genuine curiosity.
Hey, like I've had dudes just hit me and be like, how do I be creative? Like, dude, I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah, that's
like,
a good
try
question.
some drugs or something. I don't know. But like when someone's, you see they taking the steps and you see, and they ask that question that shows you at what roadblock they're at. And I remember that roadblock and how I got around. I want to help that dude because
absolutely,
I appreciate him taking the steps before asking the questions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that is I think that is what makes. I think that's where it's at. I think if, you're right. There have been times where it can be standoffish. It doesn't have to be, but it really helps to know that someone is kind of gnashing it out, like really in there working. And it isn't from, I guess the thing is, what I've found now, like living my life, like you need resistance. Everybody's anti-bully and anti-resistance. Everybody should fucking have it easy. Well, fuck. I mean, how does greatness happen if fucking there isn't some resistance? Yeah. I'm not saying that. I would never say that, like, oh, like we need bullies but life is a fucking bully sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, someone, you need to sharpen yourself against something. Like everybody wants to collect river rocks. Nobody wants a jagged rock. Oh my God, this rock makes me feel so fucking peaceful. And fuck off, dude. Like that thing was burnished. It was hammered with fucking water for who knows how many fucking years to get that shape. That's why you like it. You like it because it's burnished.
It's finished.
I mean, it's smooth. It's streamlined. We don't get to that process without some resistance. So people in your life or circumstances in your life creating resistance is what you need. Like the creative process almost demands that you have resistance.
For sure. And I think that's the other thing that I know about myself is that I'm really only motivated by either a challenge that's presented itself to me or a challenge I've made up in my head that I'm trying to overcome.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I said I did a podcast on myself a while back, and I was just kind of openly and honestly talking about my growth and everything I've done. And one of the things I noticed about myself is that I've always put something on a pedestal, like my career.
Right.
Once I get here, then man, like this is gonna be good. that's the top of the success mountain for me. Like when I get to paint my first Harley, it's gonna be like I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, when I get my first magazine, when I get this, when I get that, it was always another thing. As soon as, you know, I hit that milestone, there was always something else I could put up there.
Right.
And not saying that like I found myself without it. I have found myself without challenges, but it's not because I'm the best in the world. You know what I mean? It's not because of those things. It's just that. Right. And what I realized about challenges is that they got to be things that I actually desire. You know, they can't just be the next thing in line in this industry. You know what I mean? So
no. Well, the thing is, if you look at like pecking order, like if you look at something like, let's say a ladder, like you look at it like it's ladder based. Mm-hmm. You know, how do you discover? You're not intuitively following your program. Mm-hmm. Like this is, and that to me is the thing is that when I turn inside, I mean, I've always felt that like what we're all working to do is to bring the inside out. Mm-hmm. People who I think create, who contribute to humanity in a profound way, that's what they're doing. They're experiencing their life, the world, everything in it, and they're taking that and they're making something with it. And I think that when they're doing that, I think that when human beings are doing that, it means something to people. I think that, like, if you paint whatever it is that you do, like, you know, if you put Beethoven on Ritalin, or you diagnosed him with autism, or whatever the fuck, the myriad of things that we do in our modern day, if we went back through history and fucking turned everybody into a fucking zombie, do we have anything that we like cherish, like that truly is the arts? I don't think.
That brings me to another thing is like with custom paint, right? It's by definition it's art, but at the same time, by most people that get it, it's a material possession, right? So it's not looked at, in my opinion, by the masses as art, right? So
what you do is art.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I wholeheartedly agree, but it's not. I don't feel like it's viewed as art by most people, because most people, I feel like they're just getting it for that next step, that social status, that I want to be the dude in my block or my crew of friends, or it is something they do want, but it's not valued like real art. Like if I have a couple of tattoos or another airbrush artist art from whenever I was first doing it, that he painted these canvases, and I just like, fuck, dude, that is so sick.
Right.
I wish I had the money at the time to buy those canvases, because I would have loved to own it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so it's a different thing when you're like, literally, I'm going to buy a picture that I want to own and hold in my house. So my recent like discoveries of what I want to try to turn my work into is I want people to buy it for the art of it.
Yes.
You know, I want people to want a helmet by me because, not because like they want to get it and then when they're done with it, they'll sell it to somebody else. Like I want them to like put it away. Even if they leave motorcycling, like they're not getting rid of that helmet. You know?
So this is an interesting point. Part of me thinks that the way, first of all, that happens. Mm-hmm. That will happen. Well, I guess really the first thing is that I think that anybody that hits you up, I don't know your pricing structure, but I'm going to guess that your pricing structure weeds out.
Oh yeah, weed out a lot of shit.
Right. So that's good. Like you have to have dedicated people that are going to come up. I mean, the thing is that if it's just like street tacos,
yeah,
you know what I mean? If it's $1.50, then you eat them without thinking about it, and that's a shame.
Exactly.
So the thing is that like, it doesn't have to. What happens is when you walk, it's like $1.50, $1.50, $1.50. Yours are $13.50. What in the fuck are you putting in these tacos? Why would I pay $13.50 for a fucking taco?
And I gotta wait 2 days for it.
That's right. Yeah, try one and find out. I mean, So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that like that there's no question there is somebody wanting your paint jobs to be to move up in a social pecking order.
Yeah.
But I also believe that whether they realize it or not, and this is the beautiful thing of it is they are contributing. It's art and commerce. Like they are contributing to your ability to continue growing and evolving. So it is, I struggled with this. I struggled with like selling things, and I still undervalue things. Mm-hmm. So this lady that Jamie worked with, she said like, hey, will you come over and shoot her son's, I won't say her son's name. Will you shoot so-and-so? And I said, yeah. She's, oh, what do I, like, let me give you some money. And I said, no, let's not. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not do that. I'll just come over. I got time. I came over, shot him. And she was like, what do I owe you? And I was like, you don't owe me anything. Mm-hmm. We went through this for, we're trying to leave, talking. And then she said, let me give you something. I said, well, give me, all right, fine. Just give me what it's worth to you. And she gave me $30. Mm-hmm. I was fucking pissed. I mean, I was genuinely pissed. So I don't ask, like, if I'm going to give something away, I don't want to know what it's worth to you, because it's worth fucking $1 million to me. Like, it's not worth, like, so genuinely, like, when I say, like, hey, don't pay me, I mean don't fucking pay me. Yeah. Or understand that, like, to me, like, all of this, it's worth a lot of money. Like, so... what's it worth to you? Oh, well, fucking, do you really want to know what it's worth to me? Like, I'll give you a number because it's fucking big. Like, so you struggle with, I think creative people struggle with, they want people to have their work, but at the same time, in the beginning, you don't understand its value. You understand its value.
Yeah, I mean, now I do. I think for the custom paint world, we've all... It's bred of the automotive body industry, of course, right? It's so, I think a lot of us, and myself included, growing up, we were always looking at, like, success in this industry was a shop full of work, your own name on the building, and employees and being in demand. Like, that was success. And then, it's like when I've had that, I've had that idea of success, and it was a fucking nightmare. Right. I was in a place where I wasn't creative. I was. I just now, I feel like I'm just now, and this was like 6 years ago, I'm just now starting to look at an airbrush as an outlet for creativity and not my job anymore. Totally. You know what I mean? And a lot of it is the course of learning, to not chase as much work as you can, but chase the things that are going to challenge you creatively, that are going to put you in a best light for, like, the kind of work you want. You put out the work that you want to get back. Well, that's the thing. To me, I think, like, ultimately what we want is we want someone to hire us, book us, whatever word you want to put on it, mm-hmm. pay us for what we do. Yeah. Like, you want people to want what you do, the way you see things, the way you view the world. Yeah, exactly. And that's what you're finding. You're finding faith in your own voice. Yeah, it's like you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is fucking... It's like when the customer starts coming to you with your work that moves them and they want a piece of your work that way, then I feel like that's when I felt like I was successful at what I did. Right. Is whenever I created my own customers. Instead of I was just looked at like, I know how to do this, so here's something somebody else did. Can you do something similar to this? Exactly right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And so that's something that I've only been privileged of having that over the last 2 years. I'm not saying that during the intimate conversations that you might have with someone on their project, you won't look at somebody else's work, because I do it too. Like, hey man, did you see this? I've been really interested in doing something like. It's kind of a catch-22, right? Well, I can introduce the other artists, but they're not allowed to. Yeah, well, it is. There's a rub there, but. In the end, I think that if there's a mutual, the defining factor is a mutual respect. Yeah, for sure. If somebody, the respect/disrespect thing is huge. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very, very fine line. Like, when you feel that someone respects what you do, you want to say, here are the keys to the kingdom.
when someone comes at you and they're just seemingly just fucking uber disrespectful, like the last thing I want to do is help them, talk about the process. I don't want to make it, I want to be that fucking obstacle for them. I don't want, to me, like, I think like, hey, look, fuck off. Just straight up fuck off right now. Like, but you find people that will like come back with you say fuck off and they come back. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years. Yeah. But, they come back and they're like, hey man, fucking let's put this behind us. But what about this? And I'm like, oh man, now we're fucking getting somewhere. And that's what I live for, are building relationships like that. Yeah. That, like, when you care about someone, that you can say, hey, you know what? Fuck off. Like, seriously right now, fuck off with this shit. Like, for whatever reason. We're all going through our ebbs and flows and our own experiences and how we're dealing with everyday life. Sometimes fucking life is too much. Someone asks you the right question or the wrong question, right or wrong question at the right or wrong time, and the answer is fucking fuck you, dude. Yeah.
And that's kind of like where, with social media, because I hate to talk so much about like Instagram and how, I'm not really enjoying it right now, but
it's a huge part of.
Dude, it's 99.9% of my income.
Of course it is.
From
it's all of ours. I mean,
like me and my wife, I'm not as active on there as I used to be. And every once in a while when me and my wife get into it, she's like, you're always on your phone. I'm like, actually, you can look. I haven't posted anything in 4 days. I used to do something twice a day. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm proud of my progress of disconnecting from it. But, there's just, I don't know, man. Like there's so much good that's come from it, right? But then again, there's so many things that we kind of already addressed on that just make it all feel weird, and
well, it starts to feel disingenuous. Like you're overwhelmed. You look through it and it ends up becoming, I think where it used to be inspiring, now it becomes a detriment. Like a lot of times I look right now and I'm like, I shut off. Instead of like things opening up and me, like I said in the beginning, like me wanting to say like, fuck, killer, man, I fucking dig what you're doing, like whatever. Now I'm just like, I'll still say that to something that really moves me, but it's the revolt isn't against the people that like whose work I'm looking at. The revolt is against fucking Instagram, like being a machine. Yeah. Like that's what I'm, to me, that is where I am. It's a total stumbling block right now.
So what was the motivation to start Stag?
So I'd wanted to do a magazine for, probably 10 years. Mm-hmm. Desktop publishing wasn't affordable. I stopped drinking. We're getting audited by the IRS. I'm like, man, I need to basically, never mind any of that shit. Life had fucking come, it had bottlenecked. Mm-hmm. And I had to fucking, I had to clean some shit up. Like I had to like really start dealing with my dad dying. I hadn't really ever I don't think I'd ever dealt with that like in a way. Like at that time I said goodbye. Like I was having dreams. He would always visit me in dreams and stuff, and I could get more esoteric. I won't, but at that time I was like, hey man, I gotta live my fucking life. Mm-hmm. Like, and you gotta go. I gotta move on. I gotta be my own man, and I gotta handle my own shit. Mm-hmm. Like, so strangely, like, is it that they live in you, or however you want to look at it, like that stuff stopped happening. But so I, with that, some of the money I spent a fair amount of money on alcohol and eating out and shit. So with that, I went down and shot Matt and Jonathan and Ryan, and I put that stuff together, and it was something for Instagram. For me, it was like, all right, I just need to start working through these issues. like working through, not partying, working through like, just things.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the work and I have a lot of shit. I've shot a lot of people, so I already had a bunch of stuff, but I really didn't want to use old stuff. I wanted to create new work.
Weren't you providing some images for show class and stuff at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I'd been contributing to I started contributing to Dice in, I don't know, when Dean and Matt and I met in Arizona in I think 2006.
Damn.
So, I'd been contributing a little bit here and there for Dice, and then show class. I did some stuff for Street Chopper. It kind of all over the place. But I knew what I wanted to do. It was just a matter of putting it all together. Go ahead, Whoopi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Dices, the show class, and your magazine, I just kind of got introduced to these things whenever I started coming around this circle.
Right.
And, I was like, fuck, man, this is way cooler. Like this, it's not covered in ads that don't necessarily appeal to me.
Right.
I'm cool with an ad if it's something that I might be interested in. But a Harbor Freight ad in your magazine is not going to appeal to me. It's just in the way.
Right.
So, when I went to Chopper Supply and he had a bunch of them, so I bought a bunch of back issues, went home, and I'm just like, fuck, man, this is so cool. And the photography was cool. Even if it wasn't the best shot or the best lighting or the best thing, it was cool because it just felt natural. You know what I mean? And then all the ads felt like they were created by guys like us. You know what I mean? It wasn't a bunch of think tanks and focus groups to figure out what's going to be the best targeted way to get their products out there.
Those first 6 issues, it is all created by me. And that was the idea is that ads were part of the magazine. They weren't an ad.
It's just another cool image.
It's right. I mean, the idea is that it's a part of, and I think it goes back to the way you live your life. At some point, it all becomes one stream. It becomes your life. It isn't this is so-and-so's influence over me. This is so-and-so's influence over me. This is that person's influence. This is fucking your thing. It becomes your river. And that's the idea of the magazine is that it's all that. Even now, there's contributors, but those first 6 issues, first 5 issues definitely are just, it's all me. Mm-hmm. Then I started seeing some people's work, and I thought let me see if this works with what I'm trying to do with each issue.
Yeah.
It did, and the people who contribute now, I'm fucking incredibly stoked with. The way I'm stoked that they're stoked. If they look at it when they see the finished product, if they're fuck, I dig the fuck out of that. I want to keep doing this. That's what it's about to me. Again, it's about building relationships, and I feel closely because I look at these images, even though they're not mine. I don't rework people's images, but I do paginate all this. I lay this magazine out, so I'm looking at what works with this image to this page to this page to this page. So I spend a lot of time with the images. I mean, I spend the most time obviously with my own work because I'm taking it from a raw file all the way to the finished image. But I'm still pretty intimate with their work and how it pertains to what each issue's theme is and, the emotive quality behind it. So
do you try to put a theme on the magazine?
Oh, there is. But this is, so I provide a playlist. Mm-hmm. So the playlist, so there's 6 songs, between 6 and 9 songs, 5 and 10 songs, somewhere around there. A Spotify playlist, and the idea is that you take the magazine, put the first song on, the cover to the back cover. You go through it. You put the next song on, and you go through the magazine. You put the next song on. I think when you've taken each issue and you've gone through every song on the playlist, going through, I think that you have this a much bigger vision of what that issue is about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my hope, and it's been. I mean, the feedback when people actually take the time to do it.
It's cool that it's like, you know, you're creating, you know, a real piece of art that's been, you know, in a form that most people have overlooked. It's kind of like what I was saying about my work. It's like, how do I take this art and make it to where people are going to look at it as art?
Right.
You know, and
it's presenting it in a way that, well, this kind of stuff helps. I think that when you talk about your work in a way that, so when I looked at photo monographs, you know, I would say like this work is completely cohesive. There is something bigger at play here. But to hear someone talk about their work, or read someone write about their work, fuck. I mean, it can be next level. Or they can say like, oh, I don't know, I was out sailing the boat and, you know, I did this. And you're like, oh man, so like, what the fuck? Is this all an accident? Like, you know, I'm still intrigued, but when I read something and it was fucking like, you know, 40,000 feet deeper than the images, I'm like, oh fuck. So I think that's it. I think that like that's what happens as you feel the depth in your work. The depth becomes apparent to people. They stop looking at it as like, oh, this is a photograph. Yeah. So when you say like, I'm scrolling through there and your image comes up and I just kind of go into it for a while, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes me feel like, okay, I'm interfacing, you know, spirit. I'm actually engaging in this bigger process that
you know, you had said something about how like your magazine or the process is like a winding river that you're going through, and it's kind of the same thing that I've noticed about, you know, like my helmets have become one of the like things that most people want, and it's honestly next year it's probably going to be the only thing we'll offer, you know what I mean? But
right.
The thing that I've noticed about it is that like when I go back and look at some of my first few helmets, I can't really do those anymore. You know, like it's almost like I'm on a roller coaster or a river myself with my artwork.
Of course you are.
And at certain times, like this is the only way I know how to do these paint jobs right now.
Right.
And at some point, like I feel like I won't be able to really do that again. I might be able to use elements in it in more work, but as far as like getting that same feel or vibe or look, it's probably going to be like not options.
Yeah, it would be your version of it now.
Yeah.
So the thing is if you went back to, I think Picasso would be a good example. The Cubist Picasso, like if you have Picasso 10 years before he dies, and you ask him to paint something from his blue period, he may say like, man, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Like, I've been there, I've done that, I've ran through that. But if you talked him into painting it, it would still be, because so you look at, you know, you think like, people look at Picasso for what he's famous for. It isn't until you get into somebody that you realize that they can do realism.
Yeah, I mean,
so the Cubist thing, like you get into this super stylized view, how you see things now. You've boiled it all. So you've gone through the whole process. You've worked through the whole process, and what you've done is you've stripped it fucking down. Mm-hmm. You're like, what is the bare minimum that I need to make people feel the absolute fucking most? Mm-hmm. And that's what those guys did efficiently. I mean, it's look at drag racing. Anything involved with speed, people look at it and they look at a stock, whatever, and they're like, we need to get rid of this shit and this shit and this shit and this shit. It needs this, and we need to beef this up. And then this motherfucker goes fast.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's everywhere. But the thing is so I think what you would find is it might be nice for you to, if someone can get you to revisit an old idea, but have you do it like, you know,
I would say like redoing it or trying to tackle that old vision with the new skill set.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and I've done that before, and it's fun, but But like you said earlier, when you're doing it for a customer though, like there's that expectation on the table. Like, what if this new way I do it isn't, they want that old one, you know?
Well, I think, let me turn this light on. I think what happens is that you have to say, like, hey, look, that shit, just so we're clear, like, I'm not going to be able to replicate that. I don't want to do that for you, but I'd like to take this, what you've presented to me and give you my version of it now. Are you cool with that? Like, and I think that that's when that's a turning point for you. I think it's a turning point for any human being when they're in the creative process, that they're, it isn't like, hey, I don't do that shit anymore. I do this shit.
I had that problem last year. I had a lot of the old people that I used to do a lot of big wheel bagger paint jobs for. Right. And I had really kind of moved into this, panel stuff, and now I'm kind of evolved into like my own style of it. Right. And, they wanted the old style with they just, it was just kind of a clusterfuck of like what they wanted. And it's almost like when you have too many items on the menu kind of situation.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like, and I've realized that like slimming down the menu and offering only so much, it helps streamline the process. It helps not mind fucked me in the process of trying to be creative, because everything I do starts with pen and paper, and from that point. And so, I've had this conversation with many people. It's like, could I do the Last Supper on the back of your helmet? Yes. If I do it for you, everybody else is going to want it, and it's the time constraint to do it, the amount of space, and it's just so complicated that it becomes more of a job and less of a creative process. Right. So I try to only offer what I offer, which is like I'll do an image on the top or wherever it fits on the helmet, and I usually try to stick. Same thing. Like why I have such a love for photography is because I look at, like, I could take a picture of a badass hot chick, and I don't want to airbrush her nude, spread eagle and all that crazy shit. I want to find a way. I want to find someone that's either taking a picture of her, or I've done it in the past where I take my own photography of it, and I want to use something that speaks to people without being vulgar or too much or this, that, and the other.
Well, that is the fine. Like, how do you? Those are all personal, personal things. Like, and how do you? This is the nice thing is figuring that out. Yeah. I mean, it really is. It can be a stumbling block, but ultimately, I think that it ends up being when you work through it. Like you can say, oh man, like this is fucking. I'm really stumped right now with how to do this. But you can't be afraid to fail, so you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And then I always found with painting, like on a canvas, that you're like, you're close. Cause I taught art to developmentally disabled adults. So we did sculpture, we worked with clay, found object. I mean, we worked with fucking everything. We would go out and look for shit like through alleys and, literally everything. So, when you're painting, you're like, you can feel it. You're like, oh man, I'm fucking one stroke away from fucking this up. And you stop. Yeah. You stop shy of that. The problem is that I never know if it's like a breakthrough is about to happen. And see, I think that there is a controlling force that wants to keep you encapsulated. Yeah. And in order to break through, you have to fucking run the risk of fucking it up to see what the potential is. True. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like for me, it's a lot like that. It's a process to where you know the motions to get the image you want, right? But for myself, I always know that I could add another 15 hours. I can add another 2 hours to it, and it would be better and better and better and better. Right. And for me, I'm impatient as fuck, man. So as soon as I start seeing the image or I see the finished product and it's in my head, I'm almost like beeline to the finish line, right. And that's one of the things I hate the most about me. And I think it has a lot to do with
with just the way my business is structured, which I've been actively trying to solve that problem by, raising the prices and bringing the work where it needs to be, so that I can be like, you know what, I feel myself rushing now. I'm stopping. I'm going home.
Well, I think that is absolutely true and the case. But I think what you're going to find over time is that you're going to start doing something that isn't on helmets or
and I'm already looking at that right now.
I think what you're going to find is that this will be a creative aspect of work, but this is going to be like a body of work.
I literally was thinking about this for the last couple of days, and there's so many different types of art that I'm interested in, whether it is the photography side or vector art. Like I really like a lot of different things,
right?
And creative wise, so the thing that I love about doing helmets and the thing that I would love about doing fine art is that most people ain't up my ass about it, right? When I have your bike, you're, me and you are married,
the clock is fucking ticking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing, but it's also like one of those things, like I want to know, like, I don't want to take on commissions or take on too many jobs when I know creatively I'm in a stump, or I'm not going to be able to follow through, or I'm going to be lazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now, because with the downsizing of my business, as it's downsized more and more and more every year, it's like I'm more happy with what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
It's huge. Well, because you're doing it's rewarding. The quality. This is I feel really strongly about like quality of attention span.
Yeah.
When you have your passion. Let's say you find your passion, and then you start like the whole like sloppiness with passion.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to do it. I just want to do it. I just want to do it. I just want to do it. But there's a refining process happening.
Yeah.
So as it starts to get refined, the quality of attention span, in order to refine that even further, the quality of attention span, the amount of time that you spend, like how you efficiently look at something creatively, I think that dictates its inherent energy, like it's what it has.
Have you, with your photography, you kind of mentioned earlier the video and the short film stuff. Have you tried or wanted to reach out in your art form into other ones? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Is that?
Well, and I'm urged. I've done a couple of like video shorts, and they do exactly what I want. Mm-hmm. I think that like filmmakers used to be. I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan. Stanley Kubrick. So he started with a camera. So when you can string together, if I can take, like let's say the magazine. Right now, the magazine is a movie for me.
Yeah.
So each issue, I'm presenting a movie. That's what they are for me. So the next step would be to actually make these moving things, like moving visual images, not like emotional.
It's kind of a rudimentary thought here, but it's almost like photography and poetry are what music and videos are. It's almost like it really takes somebody to be able to see the art in some aspects, or in a lot of aspects. Someone to look at a picture and be like, oh, it's this, that, and the other, but to look at his art sometimes takes a trained eye. Same thing with reading poetry to understand it. But to hear a song, hear a melody, hear that same poetry in rhyming or in a verse, it's like it speaks to everybody. It's almost like it's the same way of a movie. Like you take a movie and you lay it out and you put all these pictures. It's almost like you're forcing all these things that we would have imagined in that photography with just a picture. The movie's playing it all out for us, and then we get it. Or some certain people.
Well, I think that. So I remember shopping stuff to galleries. This is in the mid '90s. Taking images to galleries, and they're like, "Oh, we don't show photography," and I was like, "Fuck, you're not even gonna fucking look at my shit." Like, yeah. I mean, it was this stuff right here. Like, it was not It was not regular photography.
Yeah.
So, you know, I thought like, I get what it is that photography, when things become accessible to the masses, mm-hmm. people think that any dummy can do it. Anybody can go buy a camera and take photos.
Yeah.
Photography is, it doesn't matter what medium you choose, if you authentically engage the world and creative spirit, it doesn't matter. And I think that like jazz, hip hop, like all of these things that have morphed out of, you know, existing things, mm-hmm. or thought processes or patterns, that's someone saying like, look, man, there's more. This person this morning on this documentary was talking about like, they were a modern jazz musician, and they were catching flack for like, there's no hip hop in fucking jazz. And they were like, listen, jazz when it started, it had elements of the blues and it had elements of this and that, the things that were around. If Coltrane, if those people, if Miles Davis, if they had heard hip hop, they would have incorporated that. They would have. Yeah. A true jazz musician is incorporating whatever they're experiencing. Like it's about a pure expression. So to me, I think all of this is about the more we do it purely, mm-hmm. and it's difficult. Like we have to be, you know, I think you suffer if you don't. I think it's the Van Gogh thing. Like Van Gogh didn't sell a painting in his lifetime. Mm. And look at like, you know, Van Gogh. I mean, Van Gogh's now like it's nobody wanted his shit. Like he took his paintings to these people and they were like, thumbs down. I mean, ultimately, this dude fucking wanted out.
Yeah.
Like life was a fucking bummer for Vincent Van Gogh. But everything he felt, it's all in those paintings. Like that is what it's about. It's about people putting themselves into. So kind of to tie it all together, I think like you have this like, oh, you present an image or you present yourself on social media. But the thing is that like, you know, you have to put it all together. Like there's all together a bigger, a deeper thing, and that's through your artwork. So what you talk about and what you show and how you live your life is one aspect, but the deep end of the pool, I think, is always your artwork. Like when that is, you know, substantial, it ties it all together.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess, you know, moving forward with you know, social media, it's like I feel like I just want to you know, just kind of do it more naturally and organically, you know, which kind of probably sounds a little cliche or whatever, but
I don't think so.
It just like I don't really, you know, I guess I don't need it as much as I used to. I want it. I enjoy the connectivity, and I enjoy the fact that, you know, people can see the work and I can meet new people, new customers from it, but I don't want to be a slave to it anymore. You know what I mean? Like I
know exactly what you mean. And that's where we get into the like, I want to do it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you know, and you
like I would get anxiety. Not really knowing this, but like get a weird feeling like, fuck man, like I should be posting something right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's that time of day, you know, like this is the prime time to post.
It's fucking bizarre that that's what it has come to. But I think that is, I've avoided talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that when you do talk about it, you go, oh man, so collectively we're all feeling the same.
Weird.
I mean, I think collectively there is a revolt. Like people are like, I've had enough of fucking this shit. Like,
yeah, it's weird because it's like, yes, I feel like I've had enough, but I still need it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It's
I mean, we're straight up fucking addicted. I mean, I've looked at it like this shit is. So there was a period for probably 2 weeks that I just kind of checked the fuck out. Like I didn't post anything. I didn't look. I removed both Facebook and Instagram from my phone. And I mean, I'd done the same thing a couple of years ago with the news.
Yeah.
Because the fucking news is just bad news. And really, I go eat places, or I travel a little bit or something, or wherever the fuck it is I go. Most of my life is spent right here in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
None of that shit affects this neighborhood. I mean, it affect, if people get together, did you hear about the fucking impending doom that's coming? Nope. And somehow, the fucking day that it's going to happen comes and goes, and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And, I think what you find is that somebody is banging a fucking drum. And everybody's like gearing up.
Yeah.
And gearing up. And gearing up for what, man? I mean...
I always thought, especially here in North Texas, like when a storm comes, or how everybody just goes fucking crazy. Like that was the one bit of excitement they've had in their life, to go get the last of the water and the last of the gas at the gas pump.
Yeah.
Because a rainstorm's coming. You know what I mean?
Then it fucking fizzles out or something. Yeah. And doesn't even hit us. It doesn't even hit us. Yeah, that's kind of... That's been my experience. So, I think that like when you start stripping out shit, so not having Instagram, it was like the next level. I was like, man, I have more mental free time to do other shit. Like, and overall I felt better. I was just feeling really fucking negative about a lot of things I was seeing on, it was just an all over, like a altogether malady. Like it felt sick, like an illness type thing. But I feel better about it, and like you said, we need it. This I'm about to, like, issue 11's done, and the only way I send out an email, but the only way really anybody knows about Stag Magazine is through fucking Instagram and Facebook. So what are you gonna do?
It's kind of like the other thing. It's like with this podcast shit now, I know me and Dan have talked about this, but it's like you feel like you should be doing video too. Like we should create some type of video format to totally. All these things, and you want to. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've set up my camera and tried to be the guy in front of a camera, and it's just not fucking me.
Yeah.
It's just not me. Like I can be me right now, and I can look at you and we can talk and all this stuff. But when you're in front of a camera and you're doing, I could probably do the podcast fine, but like a vlog, or like to try to be more intimate with the people viewing, you know what I mean? Like that.
Well, the thing is you would, if people never really like to see themselves. I think that people, actresses or actors, models, people who are in front of cameras, like get paid to be in front of cameras, they're comfortable with all of that. They're comfortable, they can look at it and go, I don't like, that's not flattering lighting. But whatever, it's so-and-so's vision.
But yeah, we see those guys and we see how perfect they are. And it's like, man, like I want to do that. And then you start trying it for yourself and you're like, fuck, man, like that's another skill set I have to learn how to be.
And it's a very, very valid, like, I'll say this. There are people that sit so we shoot, and then I don't usually sit down with somebody. I used to sit down with one of the girls that I've shot and go through the images. But I can tell you that, people that you may look at and be like, oh man, this person is fucking sheer perfection. They look at the image and just pick it apart. Pick it like, this is bad, that's bad, that's bad. Oh, look, I'm fucked up here. Oh, look, I'm fucked up there. So, I bring that type of stuff up from time to time so that people understand that nobody looks at themselves. They don't look at themselves and say like, fuck yeah. Occasionally do. Like you said, you look at a picture of you cruising down the road or something, you're like, oh fuck, I dig that.
Yeah.
But I think it's usually one of those things where it's like the lesser of all evils. You're like, well, fucking, I look like a fucking dipshit, but I look the least dipshitty in this image. That's kind of the way, like, when you put that stuff up. But to be able to be relatable and to be comfortable in front of a camera, it's like anything else. If I had a camera, my guess is when Joe Rogan started having cameras in doing his podcasts or whatever his stuff is that he's doing, any of those people, they're like, oh my God. If I pull up, and this is, back to that point of being in circumstances where I wish I had photos, I know that if I bring up my camera, I watch you go. I watch you tense up. I watch your face change. I watch all that shit happen, and I'm like, that's not what I want. So you have to do one or two things. Well, you have to do one thing, really, and that's to always have your camera out. Like, that camera has to always be there so that you're comfortable around it. And then when it's moving around, and it's why now, like, I'll shoot with a longer lens. When I'm shooting, like, people interacting, like, I'd really prefer...
To get,
Yeah, I want it to be... So that I'm just there shooting, I'll just put it up. And a lot of times I'm not shooting. Like, they think I'm shooting, like, oh, you probably got a ton of, in their mind, oh, you got a ton of killer shit. I'm like, I took fucking 5 frames. Like, I didn't really shoot much. I waited for you to get comfortable, and then I started shooting. Like, I got what I wanted. So the thing is that the introduction to it being there is the first, like, interloper shows up, and you're like, once you get comfortable with it being there, you're comfortable, and it's moving around and shit, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, so I think probably the beginning of next year, like, I'm saving up for all the equipment to do the podcasting on video and live and all that shit, and we're actually working on, like, finding a studio to, like, set up for it, right?
That's killer.
And so once we do that, I think that through the course of doing that and all the live, I'm just going to have to be comfortable with whatever I come off as.
Right.
It's the same thing when we first started doing the podcast, man. It's like when you would go back and listen to your voice,
it sounds
you would
terrible.
just get like, fuck, man, like, why? You know what I mean? And so I've learned that I don't go back and listen to the pod. Even after I've done them and edited them and they sound, good to my ears.
Right.
I put them out and I don't listen to the podcast again. I just... because I'll get in my head and I'll start getting, insecure about things. Like, man,
of course,
all that shit.
And then ultimately you want to add a voice to it, and it's exactly right. You want to articulate it, and really, it's usually left best
natural,
just being the way that it is. Like
sure.
That's moving on from a painting, moving on from a helmet or whatever. You're like, okay, so I fucked that up in this place, and this place. Overall, I feel really good about it, and I'll address that with the next thing.
Yeah.
With the next canvas or the next whatever. And the thing is that, like, I don't know. I know that everybody doing something creative does that. Like, tattoo artists are like, oh, fuck, like, that wasn't like the best tattoo, and I can't go back and fucking fix that. Like,
I did tattoos for a while, and that's why I stopped, because that emotional swing of doing a good one versus a bad one is fucking, like, it really eats at you if you really care about what you're doing.
Yes.
Because you're like, fuck, man, like, fuck the money, man. Like, I can't believe, like, I did that badass piece yesterday and this, and it'd all be because of a different skin,
Yep.
Whatever you want to
call
anything.
It. All of your emotions, like, so maybe, you're more relaxed. If you run sideways or something, you fucking get sloppy, you run sideways on a line or there are so many different things. Like, like, if you're not, like, there, you're not a machine.
Yeah.
So you really do, you have to, but I think that's what it is you cut yourself slack and you say, like, fuck, like, I did the best I could today. And I'm going to let myself live with that. Like, fuck, I can't, like, what can you do? Tattoos are tattoos really are something. Like, you could not send somebody's helmet out and go back and keep working it and keep working it and keep working it until you feel it's right. But if you gave it a week, if you let it sit there, you'd walk by and go, how the fuck did I miss that fucking spot? Like,
dude, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I would see that when I was traveling for paint work, and I'd come back to that shop a month later or a year later, and it's for the shop, and there's a bike. I'm like, fuck, man, like, my pinstriping was horrible at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just all those type of things. But I don't know, man. Like, it all seems to work out. Like, all the time, invested in this stuff, it's like, it's just my whole career has just been growth, right? So, the other good thing that's come of getting into painting is that I found a passion for motorcycles.
Right.
I found, being forced to paint them at a job barrel rolled into this current situation where I love riding bikes across country, man. Like, that shit makes me feel alive. you know?
Right.
And 10 years ago, that was me in a garage painting canvases made me feel that way. You know what I mean? And now it's like being on the road. It's like, you know, that
expanding.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't want to be in the garage doing that shit anymore. It's just that I feel like I'm just letting myself live the life I want to live instead of making myself feel bad 'cause I'm not doing art or I'm not doing this. I'm like, this is just what I want to do, man.
Yep.
Leave me alone, Jace.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
I mean?
it's horse and rider. So you have pure potentiality and then you have your mind.
Yeah.
Like when you're in balance, the horse and rider are working together. If the energy is all if the horse is running out of control, it's not productive. If the fucking rider is fucking off and can't get the horse to move, it's imbalance. So horse and rider is the analogy of a horse and a rider working symbiotically. That is you harnessing, like you're working naturally.
Yeah.
Towards a goal. Like I don't know. I mean,
no, I agree. That's it. You know, it's like I'm home now. I do, like I was telling you, I was planning on going to that the Indian Larry Block party.
Yes.
So that's my next trip that I'm planning on. But I have, you know, X amount of jobs to do before then, and I'm content with that. I'm like, yeah, like right now it's fucking work time. I'm like, I'm in a creative state.
Yep.
And then as we get closer, I'll get more excited about the bike trip and the podcast and the places, because I've never been to New York. And then I'm going to like try to be in that experience alone.
Yeah, when you're there, you want to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, oh man, I've got so-and-so's helmet to do. Like, you don't want to like take it. Same, dude, it was the worst thing. Like when I was building my FXR, I think I talked about it a million times, but in the middle of painting it, I decided to take I didn't decide. I was supposed to go do an anniversary. My wife and I, her birthday is like the 15th and the 20th is our anniversary, right? So we would like consolidate it for a weekend kind of thing. And the whole time we're gone and just us, we went to the, like hill country and just went hiking and nice hotels and shit. And all I thought about was that paint job on my FXR. That's all I thought about. And I was not there. I wasn't present, and I felt so fucking bad afterwards because, it's like, I'm always on bikes, you know what I mean? There's the one time I should have been just present for her alone, Right.
And so I learned on that time, like, to try to not, bring certain things in certain areas. So I don't want to bring my work on my bike trip. I don't want to bring my work on or my other plans on my family shit. You know what I mean? Vice versa and all that stuff. So
of course. Well, that's balance. Like that is like no matter how you look at, like, there's only right now. Mm-hmm. Like you and I having this great conversation right now and right now and right now. Like that's all there is.
Yeah.
Like, we live in this, what you were doing earlier and what you have to do tomorrow, but none of that shit's real.
Yeah.
The only thing that's fucking real is this very moment. And the more that we can be, you can't do it all. Like you can't so I want to have this killer. I think it goes to like what you first started talking about like, like this would be a good post. This would be like, you see this stuff and you want to encapsulate it into everything. Yeah. Like you want it to be all things. When really, I think when you calm the fuck down, you look at it and you're like, oh, this is just about this. Mm. And this is just like, as you're moving through your day and ultimately your life, you're like, this is just about this. Mm-hmm. And then it gets your attention. Like I think that is the rub with creativity. Like you're kind of at its mercy when the horse is not wanting to do anything but sit in the fucking loafing shed.
Yeah. That's one of the hardest things to explain to people, and it also feels like the biggest cop out whenever you're trying to explain to someone that doesn't do things that are out of creativity. It's like, I have a garage, I have a table, I have all my markers, I have my inspirations, I have all these things, and I'm sitting there and I'm just nothing is clicking, nothing's working, none of these lines flow together, nothing works.
Right.
And you'll sit there for hours and you'll come up with nothing. And then, and then you like try it again and again and again in days, and it doesn't go by. And then sometimes you sit down and you could bang out 4 paint jobs on a helmet, like 4, bam, this was it. And then you draw another one completely different. You're like, damn, this is it too. And like, fuck, man, like I'm on a roll. I'm tapping into that source, that pond right now.
Well, I'll tell you, let's try this. Let's say that like let's say that it's you.
Yeah.
Let's say that we're our own stumbling block. Mm-hmm. Where you make a line and you're like, fuck, that looks like shit. And you make another line and you're like, fuck, I don't have it. Is it that you don't have it, or is it that like the resistance is telling you to try something else? Yeah. Like I think if we just keep trying things, like I'm going to fucking get this. Like I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah. See, when I was younger, the way I got through that problem was, it was like it would come down to where, okay, it has to happen now. Like
right.
I do not have another day to sit on this. It has to happen now because this has to be done by then time. And for some reason, with that pressure, things would work. You know what I mean? The ideas would work.
Right.
But I don't know, man. Like sometimes it's the drawings are there. Like, dude, I have enough drawings to turn anybody to a great painter. Right. That's a little arrogant, but it's
no. I understand.
But when you're, it's almost like you're doing things to impress yourself. Like,
yeah,
I want to like.
You want to be inspired.
Yeah, and for me, it starts at that sketch. When that sketch looks good and those colors flow together,
totally.
Then I'm like, I'm jazzed to do it now. I'm stoked. Just like I was saying earlier about once you're doing that airbrush portrait and you start seeing it come together.
Yes.
That like dose of adrenaline or whatever you want to call it to just go through it.
Endorphins.
Yeah, it keeps you going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
walk around a project for days. I'll look at it and I'm like, I'm not ready. And then when I finally make myself, and sometimes it's that deadline situation where I'm like, I don't have a choice. I have to do it. And now every time, 100% of the time when I'm finished, I'm like, why the fuck did I dance around this thing for so long? It took me an hour.
Yep.
It took me 15 minutes.
That is everybody. That is every creative person's. Yeah. I guarantee you, people who write novels, they have writer's block. Oh, I'm fucking stumbling. I'm this, I'm that. And you make a million fucking excuses. But when you hammer your wrist to the fucking wall and you fucking like, I'm going to fucking have it out with this fucking thing right now. Once you start.
Yeah.
Once the first cut, the first fucking stroke, the first whatever, once the initial thing happens that you're like, there you are. Yeah. I fucking see you. And then you just voraciously fucking get after it. And you're like, you come up and you're like, motherfucker, why was I tap dancing around this? Because like, I think that it's break on through. Like you have to push through that resistance. If you don't push through that resistance, do you really have that? Like,
maybe it is that. Maybe I'm telling myself it's all these other things, or maybe I really just don't want to do this right now.
You don't. That's what it is. But the thing is, and that is the beauty of what we have worked to not have is a job. I mean, we have a job, but it's when we want to do it. So that's the thing that's what people want right now. They want the world on their terms. Like, I don't want a world like that. Well, guess what, motherfucker? The world is the way the world is. Like,
Well, I guess that brings me to something else that makes me wonder too. Is like, all through the 2000s when I was starting this path, with paint and stuff, it's like all I ever wanted to do was be a custom painter and be what I am now, right?
Right.
But for some reason I am now, but I've seen other people that are something else that I want to be that something else now. Whether it's a podcast star or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
It's growing.
What it is growing, but I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But it just seems like you. I guess it is pretty much just growing because that's really what I attribute it to. It's like I've always said that everything is like a series of doors, and every time you go through one door, you deal with what's in that room, and then as you go through it, there's another door to go through, and it takes you into these weird places. Like I said, I never picking up an airbrush, 15 years ago, never thought that, I would make some of my money off of, or some of my living off of talking in a microphone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's 100% because of the successes I've had in the airbrush that has allowed me the ability to do this.
Yeah. And every experience, like you start these, you have these experiences and they fork.
Yeah.
Like they splinter off into, multifaceted. And that's the best thing that human beings can be, are multifaceted, well-rounded human beings.
So the devil's advocate to that whole concept is it's great for the infinite amount of growth that we can have as humans because of this type of work that we do. But then there's that uncertainty that comes with that.
Yeah.
That I'll look at a friend of mine that's worked at the last job for 15 years, has stacked ass 401k, but he does one motion all day at work. Bop, just, working a machine or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And his whole day's planned out, and then once he's off, he put his time in, and he gets to live his life free of all those. I'm sure he has his own anxieties, but he don't have mine, right?
Right.
And he don't have my freedom, but he has a freedom that I don't have as well. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Everybody, this is the thing is that I genuinely believe that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Like our lives suck equally for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, one person's junk is another person's treasure. There are a million different little analogies to the grass is always greener on the other side. When you fucking take responsibility, like these are my choices. This is what I chose to do. Mm-hmm. The thing is that you can look at someone else's life. I think that when you close your eyes at night, you're like, I did the best I could do today. Like, I feel like I fucked up in these crucial points. Hopefully tomorrow comes around and I can try again and rectify that or win this thing, But I think that's, I think that when we're willing to accept, like, hey, I was a fucking asshole the last time we got together.
Self-awareness.
Yeah. I think when we pay attention, I found that, like, at night, I think a lot, I think about the day and, when people used to party over here all the time and I was always fucked up and, it was Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes they got a super nice-o, sometimes they got a fucking... I think that they knew what to expect.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time at night going over that shit and thinking like, man, I was a fucking jerk.
Yeah.
I really wasn't fucking cool about this. But that's just all a part of, it's all a part of fucking living and growing. Like when you can see, and we're all infallible. Like, and everything we do has fucking flaws. And to the point, like, let's take like Von Dutch. If you go back and look at like pinstriping when it first starts, mm-hmm. like it looks like dog shit compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
But what would you rather own right now? Something, and never mind someone's name. Would you rather have somebody's first work, or would you rather have their like, work that like kind of looks like everybody else? Like, look, this is them fucking struggling. Like, that's the shit to me. Someone struggling is worth more than someone fucking coasting. Like, if you're struggling through your work, to me personally, when I look at somebody's work, I'm like, yeah, that's struggle.
That would make a lot of sense for the chopper scene in the paint shops.
It's fucking, I don't.
Well, it's one of those things, like, we joke about it a lot, but it was when I first came into it, that was probably the hardest thing to accept is that things had to look old and fucked up, and the things that weren't like that, they were done new. It was like, whatever the norm is, let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way.
Well,
it looks cool. It fits a chopper, but some of us, like, I've always had this thing, me and FXR Mike talk about it a lot, is flames, right?
Right.
I cannot physically lay out a flame that doesn't look like the way I lay out a flame.
Right.
You know, like I could try all day long and I will have the biggest anxiety trying to mimic someone's look or style that's not my natural flow of doing it. Because
right.
when I first learned how to do this shit, I used to steal tape from my job, little masking, little plastic tape, and I would come home on the table smoother than this, and I would just lay out flames on it.
Right.
And I'd be like, fuck yeah. And then I pull it up, and then I lay out another design on the table. That part of my career was the funnest ever doing this stuff
because it's pure. There's the only reward in it is the finish. Like when you look at it and you're like, I did it.
Yeah,
I fucking did that shit. But the nice thing is that it's impermanent. Like its impermanence is so you have the creation and death almost simultaneously. Yeah. You finish it, you're like, fuck yeah, stoked. You pull it up and you do something else. Yeah. That's liberating. Like that really is. So the more that like if those had been canvases and you're stacking them up,
yeah,
you're collecting. Like you're just collecting. And then what it does is it serves to be, it's best left as a memory. Because if you had a visual representation of it, if you took a picture of each one of those, I guarantee you we could flip through your phone right now and you'd be like, oh, that looks like dog shit. That's not at all what I remember it looking like.
Yeah, so the way you remember
it's best the way it's that pure. So what it really is versus like the way you're interpreting it and the way you're experiencing it, that's the experience is everything.
Yeah, so like whenever I my first few paint jobs I ever did, in my head, even on the really shitty, Polaroids that we have from back in the early 2000s,
right? You
go to Walgreens, get them printed out from your digital camera and shit. It's shit 3-4 megapixel camera stuff. It's not good photos. So even in the photos, like, man, it's not clean and crisp enough for me to see the flaws. It still looks cool to me.
Right.
So I totally get what you're saying about, seeing those things and being able to remember them for how stoked you were while you were doing it.
Yes.
And how it's one of those things where I've always said, and a lot of painters say this, when you see a really, really shitty like truck go down the road with some horrible paint job on it, and the funny thing is like, we'd always say is like, somebody did that, step back and go, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And someone was stoked with that.
Yeah. And it's like, yes, it might be the butt of our joke, but I've been in that situation, you know what I mean? And I know how stoked it was to do. At some point,
you will. I would be willing to bet that you will see that stuff. You'll be out, and a truck like that will come by, and what will arise in you is like, fucking someone's getting it on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you want that positive.
Yes. Well, the thing is that the hypercritical eye of looking at it going like, oh man, you fucked it up, takes a backseat to the like, someone is fucking finding a voice.
Yeah.
That's what you see, or it's all
what you put back out.
Yes, what's reverberating, I should say. Mm-hmm. That's where the bass waves, the something that's moving you more than.
Yeah, and I think in hindsight, I really want to, it's something I have to like pay attention to, because in hindsight, that is the energy I want to put out. That's the vibe. That's everything I want to put back out there. But there still is that some of those things in your head. You're like, well,
there has to be.
Man, well, who was.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, and I guess now, because I'm not in competition with anybody else but myself, that I know some people would look at that and then they would reach to their friend and goes, that's why you pay a professional, or this, that, they would use it to some kind of like marketing scheme for them as I'm better than that.
Right.
Instead of like just, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I look at it this way. Like if you don't have the thought process, if you don't have the skills, if you don't have it all sort of dialed in, mm-hmm. you just talk shit.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you don't have anything else to do but talk shit. Because really you could, if you wanted to address someone's incapability or I just don't see why, like, I think that when you feel good about what you're doing, mm-hmm. you feel less concerned with the way someone's fucking up and more concerned with
100%.
how they're doing. Like, it goes back to like someone saying like, hey, what about this? And I'm like, here's your voice right here. I'm looking at this image and saying like, check this out right here. Mm-hmm. Oh, fuck, that's the stupid part. Okay. I mean, really, that's all you can say about that is because what I'm seeing is like, this is actually the strongest part because this is you.
Yeah.
All of this other shit is somebody else. Pay attention to that. That's you. Not, I mean, that's all when I have in having conversations with someone and we're talking, like it's an exchange. That's what I'm trying to say is like, pay attention to your voice. Mm-hmm. Like this is, you know, where is your voice in this? Like on this palette, where's your voice? Because I mean, I see Davey Boy and Petey and I see Shuggy and I see all these people, but where the fuck are you, dude? Mm-hmm. Like you did this. Where are you?
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, it goes to I think it addresses those things like how we consume our surroundings, but find our voice and then use it to do something good instead of like chastise people, which I think, you know, when we're unsure of ourselves, that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
I mean, the default is to be critical and, you know, oh, fuck, whatever. But I think that like, you know, when you catch yourself doing that, you're like, oh man, like.
See, I think that's the one thing that happens to me when I drink.
Yeah.
Is that I get way more opinionated and it's an annoying thing that's like rather recent in my drinking. You know, 'cause when I first started drinking, and I don't really want to go too deep into drinking conversation, but just like, you know, when I first started drinking, it was just like, fuck, man, this is fun. This feels great. Let's party. And then, you know, years into it now, which I haven't been drinking for a long time, but long enough to get in trouble. Right. You know what I mean? And then it gets to a point where it's like, fuck, man, like, you're not a positive person. You're not as positive as you always felt like you were when you were drinking. You might be more critical on people, or you might be talking shit, and you know, all these other things that like I know that I do. I'm pretty hard on my brother, you know, quite a bit, and it would, you know, get worse when we were drinking. You know what I mean? Because I'd be like, oh man, dude, you need to just stop what you're doing. You fucking suck at everything. You know what I mean? And it's funny because, or it's meant to be kind of funny. But it doesn't sound funny, and it doesn't really feel funny after I said it.
Well, the thing is, some of that stuff, first thing let me address, I think that, like, what I found with alcohol, my experience with alcohol is that I would be sober, not drunk. Mm-hmm. And I would know that, like, these 10 people are coming over and I have immediate thoughts about all of these 10 people. And some of them really negative, some not so negative, some super positive. And what I found is that like those people got that, like all of the things I thought sober, when I got to the right point of drunk, I was like, hey, check this out. And I laid all that shit on them, and they're like, fuck, dude, what the fuck? Like, so, you know, this is a fairly recent thing. I think that that's what alcohol's purpose in culture is, to do and say the shit that you don't normally do and say. Mm-hmm. I think that that's what, I'm not saying that that is what it's designed for or anything. I'm saying that that's like, oh, when I go to the club, like fucking, I'm, you know, I don't normally do that, but, or like I wouldn't normally cheat, or I wouldn't normally fucking do this, but alcohol gives me the license to do whatever the fuck I want. Because you have these things that you subdue, that you're dealing with, and you drink. When you get to a certain point of drinking, then all of that shit, you're like, dun 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 dun, pop! That fucking top pops off, and out pops all of those fucking things that you wanted to do but didn't have a, you know,
the
way
balls to, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the way I look at drinking. I think, you know, like the purpose behind, and I don't like other substances that people use. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think. You know, smoking weed is not like...
That's kind of the weird thing. Is like, I totally agree with that. And, you know, I keep telling myself like, man, you should just smoke more, but it's like it's not the same for me. Like
It's
part
not
of
the
me
same
really
at all.
do, and I enjoy the social. I mean,
it's fucking gold.
It's so it really is great. You said on one of the dance podcasts, you said, man, it's like you don't want the party to stop, and that's a lot of how I feel sometimes. And there's also that aspect where like there's that nostalgic to it or whatever. Like this recent trip where all my boys, we rode across country. It felt great to get a 12-pack and sit at a fire on Big Sur around a campfire, and just that was one of my highlighted nights. And all we did was drink, and we just talked about life.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what we talked about, but man, it felt so fucking important while we were doing it.
Yep.
And for those reasons, like I don't know.
I know exactly what you're
I don't
saying.
want to not have that experience, right?
Yeah.
But every once in a while, man, like it does get to a point where it's like, fuck, man, we're gonna get fucked up again this weekend. You know.
See, the thing is that like for me, it was about the way I felt health wise.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like, and I was drinking enough that like it becomes counterproductive. There are people who drink and it never becomes, it's like any fucking thing else, you know. Some people smoke cigarettes and live to be fucking 90.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. For me, it was, I just, you know, I've gotten a better grip on like understanding negativity. Mm-hmm. You know, instead of just being fucking negative, because I can, if I'm not doing what I should be doing, like if I'm not creating and I'm not like paying attention to the process of life, and I get negative.
Yeah. And
when I get drunk while fucking straight up stewing in the swamp, everybody around me, you know, for the most part, everybody's here hanging out for a couple of hours and then they bone out. And all they have is the boisterous, like, dun 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 dun, you know, the me that's like tap dancing and all that shit and like, woo, boo, 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 boo. But the people who stay later and later and later and later, they get to deal with the fucking...
Yeah, the demons.
Yeah, they get to deal with the person that wants to talk about heavy shit and then wants to talk about how fucked up you are.
Yeah,
like, you know, and... Those are the things that, like, this was fucking mind-boggling, man. And this is not something So these two guys, they were friends of one of the girls that I was shooting. Interesting guys, enjoy having them around. We got fucked up one night, and I did this, you know, exactly what you're talking about. Hey, man, you should be doing this shit, dude. You should be doing that. You should be doing that. And then it got fucking... I'd listened to them talk enough that they had opened up and shared really personal stuff. Mm-hmm. And in this flip, like, I took their personal shit and fucking ran them through with it. Mm-hmm. And this guy fucking immediately was like, there was a fucking visceral reaction that this guy had. He got mad. We kind of talked through it, and then he calmed down and he said, hey man, you know what you do? Like, you're fucked up. You're seriously fucked up. Like, you fucking invite people over here. You listen to them, and then you ambush them with their shit. Like, people aren't for your fucking amusement, dude. Like, this is my life. That shit, I mean, I'm telling you this story because it had that type of impact on me. I was like, that's fucked up. That's exactly what you're doing. And that's fucked up. Like, that's, you know, these are fucking real people who lead everyday lives, working hard, doing the best they can at whatever the fuck it is that they're doing. Who are you to fucking throw stones into their life or give them shit or whatever? Like, it's a different thing when you are both on an equal playing field and you ask for what I think about it.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing when we're both fucked up and you're vulnerable and I start hitting you with a fucking stick. You said, this is the scariest fucking thing ever for me is this fucking stick right here. And at some point later on, I go and grab that stick and start tapping you on the head with it.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Like, that's not going to elicit anything other than a feared response. And that's not good for anybody. I mean, you know. So, yeah, my experience came from, like, really looking into, like I said, late at night, people left. I didn't want the party to end. I was still up. But I, you know, went through dissecting all of these conversations and shit. And that's ultimately where it led, was that bottleneck. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like, fuck, I just need to, like, I'm a better person not drinking than I am when I'm drinking. But dude, don't think I don't like sunsets, the first 2 or 3 beers, like that fucking, like, super, like, songs are better.
Yeah.
Shit smells better. But then, you know, then you have hangovers and you have, you know, 6 more hours, 7 more hours, 10 more hours. I love day drinking. Yeah. I love being day drunk, dude.
I feel like the day drinking thing is the worst for me, because that's where I'm going to be that asshole.
Yeah, because by night you're tired and you're over it, and you.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I was going to say, even whenever I'm sitting down to draw, sometimes I have to have like a beer, because it, like you said, that first beer, everything, it almost like, and this is what they probably tell you not to do, or what it is in Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever the fuck, but it's like, it just suppresses all those, like, anxieties, or I guess you'd say, or just whatever's going on in your head. It just kind of, for me, it just kind of like muffles it, or it just kind of smooths it out.
Quiets the voices. Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I'm just able to sit there and start doing those lines. And yeah, sometimes it's a beer or two and I'm done. I've done all the shit I want to do. Sometimes I have a 6-pack and I'm not where I want to be at the end of this, and it's like I didn't create anything.
I'll tell you something though. That is a part of the creative process. Like, you know, the Palace of Wisdom is found on the road to excess, or something like that. I think it's Nietzsche, but yeah, you know, I think that's the case. I think that I certainly did. I mean, I needed those experiences. I wouldn't change a fucking thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, okay, I'm not gonna drink, and I'm gonna try to find a fucking happy place, or what? Fuck that noise. Like, you know, everything happens the way it's only bad if you don't fucking learn from it, I think. I mean, I think like, you know, there are traumatic experiences. Sometimes you fucking beat people up with ideas or whatever the fuck it is, and they leave with having had a negative experience. But, you know, if both people learn from it, or I don't know, man. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, you don't want to have any regrets about that stuff. It's just part of life.
It is, totally.
You got to have those ups and downs and those shortcomings and pitfalls and all that shit. So that's one thing I'm also learning. Like, you know, it's weird because I'm 36, I'm going on 37, right? And for the life of me, I don't feel old. You know, I don't feel like old. Like,
you never will. Well, physically, you'll start to feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to feel physically, or the energy to, you know, I used to be able to stay at the shop all night till 3 a.m. every day, banging shit out. Now it's like 6 o'clock. I'm like fucking ready to go.
Yeah.
But so I do this, and now that I'm seeing people that are 25 years old, and I see what they do and their time, like their energy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking not that anymore. No. Like, that's like, this is a new thing that I'm just kind of accepting in my life now, right? It's like, fuck, man, like I'm now, not an OG, but just an older dude in this world that, you know, because when I first started painting bikes and got into the, like, you know, working on and customizing them, I was the 21-year-old, 22-year, 23-year-old with magazine fucking things. So I felt like the young guy. And, you know, then you had your Rick Fairlesses and all these other people that were just established from so long ago. And then, you know, now it's like, fuck, 15 years later, I'm like, fuck, I'm 37 years old. I'm old now. I'm where those guys were whenever I started. I'm where they were.
Well, it is, and it's the thing that, like, people seek you out for what you do. Yeah, like that really is like, if you
traded that youth for that experience.
Well, the thing is you lived your life. Like, that's the thing is that in living. My hopes for everybody is that because we're all checking out of here. Yeah. And we're all doing it alone. Like, there's no, like, we don't get to. Well, I suppose some people leave as a group, But even as a group, you're experiencing this on your own. I don't know, man. I think that, like, you know, if you look at it and you're growing, like, there are people who don't grow. I mean, you encounter people regularly that they're, I shouldn't say that because it's a measuring stick that I'd be putting out there. They're growing. But, you know, there are people that I've known for long periods of time that seem to be like, the resistance keeps them from pushing through.
Yeah, I see that.
And we should always encourage people to, like, fucking move through that resistance, like, not let that resistance keep you corralled, you know?
So what's your bike status right now? I know that you've kind of been working on some different ideas and stuff.
Yeah, it's the 48. It's out there. Like, it's it's.
Do you have that? Didn't you have that one that had, like, the striped paint job on the tanks? It was like a black and orange or black and yellow.
Black and yellow had the
knucklehead.
The knucklehead,
yeah.
The 47 that had flames on it. This is my thought process on those paint jobs. Like, I laid those out and I painted them with Krylon.
Nice. See.
And then I had my buddy Brian stripe them, and then I wrote them. Like, the gas fucking spills out of them and that shit. It's Krylon, so it fucking, you know, flakes up. It orange peels. I never felt the need to, like, make it look old. I just think, like, if you use shitty products and use
it really does. I mean, when I first got into it, I was kind of in because when I first got into the industry, the choppers of the world were the shit you saw on TV, that stuff, right?
It was,
and then when this, you were saying that you were doing all this shit in 2006, on these more vintage bikes, like OG shit. This stuff didn't really pop into my wheelhouse till 2016, right? And so, like, it was like, now I've got 10 years of, like, learning how to do things as professional as possible, and now the most popular thing is
deconstructed shitty stuff.
It was a mind fuck.
It's mind numbing. I mean, it's really the nice thing about it is that, like, you don't have to concern yourself really with it. Like, you're doing your thing, and
that's what I'm saying. At the time, though, I was in that position mentally where I had to figure out how to get my paint job on every bike on the street.
Right.
And so it was just a negative place to try to, like, look at shit from, you know what I mean? And now that I'm not in that way, I can look at it and be like, fuck, man, like that, like I said, I remember seeing pictures of that bike and pictures of you on it, and I'm like, shit, it might not have had that same effect to me while I was sitting still in the parking lot,
right? But
now it's doing something to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think what it is so those flames, like, they were, I went back and looked at what people were doing in that
time frame,
the 50s.
Oh, okay.
Like 50s, latest mid 60s. And they're these super archaic, funky, goofy flames. Yeah. And so that's what I was like, there's really no being a perfectionist. Like, I think that anybody that's working creatively is, whether they're doing shoddy work or not shoddy. Well, that's not true. Some people are not paying attention to details. So it was difficult, symmetry. So I lay those out. I mean, I laid those out probably 10 or 15 times, when really, in theory, you think, like, dude, they're fucking, like, they're really shitty fucking flames. But I knew the way I wanted them to look shitty. Like, or random.
The style of it, you were trying to get that look that you had. Yeah,
but more than anything else, I just wanted to feel it. It's the exact same thing when you lay out your flames. I laid it out, and I'm like, okay, I came around too far for this scallop. I go back out. Oh, now I'm too close. This is right. And then I come back in. You're laying these things out, and you're like, yeah, this works. You get to a point. I don't know, like, but I remember Brian saying, like, saying something about painting. So I did. I fucking went and bought an airbrush. And at the time, House of Color made spray cans.
Yeah,
little cans for models, for doing models. So they offered like, candy tangerines and all these candies and shit. So I went to Walmart in the Colony and I fucking was buying tons of these things and spray painting tanks with them. Like these tanks, I would paint it and then I would fucking, I'd have it for a couple of days and I'd sand it down and repaint it. So a couple of those tanks, the tank that's on Oliver's bike has like 3 paint jobs on it. And by design, at some point, if he updates the bike and just strips it off, it'll all be gone. But if someone were to let that shit over time start flaking off, there would be, there'd be 3 paint jobs there, which I think that shit is really fucking cool. I think that what turns me on about old shit are people being impatient. So they have a bike and they didn't sand it down. They just fucking sprayed it over because they were in a hurry to get so what ends up over time is you end up with this paint job that is, fucked up.
I could see the art in that though, like the art in.
It's the deconstruction of everything. It's like this shiplap and all of that. I think what people want now is, because we feel like we're not leading an authentic life. That we need handmade nails and all of this shit. And the stains from this wood were metal, the deposits. That kind of shit means something to me. It means something it has for a long time.
I'm a very sentimental person as well. I've always said this about my helmets. My helmets are literally like urns for that year of motorcycling I did on that, because I don't get to keep the bikes all the time. So I have a helmet that I did Samuel Jackson on it, and I rode that bike, that gold FXR, across the country. Well, I don't have that FXR anymore, but I got that helmet, right? And so it's the same thing. I have a desk, I have tables in my shop that I don't like to say that I'm like this energy aurora or whatever.
It is what it is,
but
right.
I look at a certain desk like the one I currently airbrush on, and I've had it through 2 different shops in my garage. I've laid out so many designs on it, so I feel like that thing has a little bit of a soul now.
It totally does.
You know what I mean?
It absolutely does.
So I prefer, if I'm going to do artwork, I prefer to do it on this table that I've got a history with. And it's the same thing with a lot of shit, man. I was going through my, I just took possession of my mom's house, you know what I mean? So I was in the attic going through all my old shit. I found all these old-ass comic books from when I was a kid and shit. None of them are worth anything because in the 90s, they made so many prints of everything that it's just it's pointless now. But just looking at all the shit that I used to keep as a kid, fuck, man, I was a pack rat for things that were sentimental to me at the time, and I see how that's progressed into now. So I look at tables, I want to make a badass table for the studio I'm talking about for the podcast that feels like it's just going to absorb all these conversations and all these different things, and it's going to have its own little. It's going to be its own part of the show. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, that is I think that when we shift our awareness to wanting to be surrounded by people, clothes, tables. I mean, if you're in an environment, I think that the idolized period of time, people were surrounded by handmade things. And we've catapulted out so far from that it leaves us feeling untethered. And so though, like you're saying, it's a tether. When you sit down to work at that table, you feel grounded.
Yeah.
It's a grounding experience. And that's if you begin to look at things like that, they take on, that is the gift of the commonplace. That's looking at things in this elevated state versus just mundane. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's that. oh, that's that. Like, if it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, so we lived at a Buddhist retreat facility from all through 2000. So, you know, when you dropped a text or any type of, you know, image of the Buddha or any of that kind of stuff, you touch it to your head and put it back on the table.
What is that for?
Your head would be like the highest part of you. So the ground would be the dirtiest, most sullied part of whatever. Okay, so if, let's say, it's sullied and then you touch it to your head and you set it down. This becomes a repetitive act. You don't step over things, you walk around them, because it's about respecting the energy of things. Yeah. Which, you know, this gets into esoteric funkiness. But what I found is that, so like, I would do this with spiritual texts. And then if I dropped my glasses, I would touch them to my head and set them down. Now, the crazy thing is that I was like, oh, I've turned into a fucking robot. Not really. What I've done is I've come to see this thing as something more than just my fucking sunglasses. Yeah. Like, oh, I don't give a shit about these, but I do care about that. So, in theory, the practice is to get you to see all things equally. Yeah. With the same reverence. And I would never claim to be able to do that, because you still look at shit and go, look at that shitty fucking thing. Yeah. But the idea, I understood at that moment that the idea of that practice wasn't just to pay homage to the words or the paper or any of that, but to get you to look at that, like, the things that you're making a distinction. This is bullshit. This is real. This is bullshit. This is real. It's actually all real. Like, what you're assigning, the label you're assigning it.
So it must have been super hard for you to, like, get rid of a bike or something like that, or.
You know, with my mom and dad dying. Yeah. You know, my mom dying in 97 and then my dad in 2005. There is a very compartmentalized part of me. So I'm probably most, I don't want to say attached, but I'm probably, I identify with this bike. The 46 that Oliver has, I really, that bike has always felt like my bike. From the, like, first to, it's like, it's still there. Yeah. In whatever form it is. But if I saw that stuff, like, I go, oh, hello, old friend. Like, like, that's the way I feel about that bike. This bike feels like that. Not probably as much as that, but I just haven't spent as much time with this bike. But so I've always kind of compartmentalized them.
Yeah, it's weird because so the tins on my Gold FXR, I ended up selling them to a guy in Hawaii, right? And he just was stoked to get them, put them on his FXR. And it took him about 4 or 5 months to get them on the bike. Someone was building the bike for him. And I swear, I remember I was sitting somewhere, I was drinking, and he sent me pictures of it, like, together. And I'm not going to say that I teared up or anything, but just like this like warm sense went over my body. I was like, you know, because I had so much, I rode that bike coast to coast in so many places and so many firsts, and then seeing it and someone still having it was like, I was equally stoked that somebody else wanted it and is now enjoying it the same way I did.
That's right. You know what I mean? And I think that's the healthy way to look at it is, well, healthy for me anyways, is that when it's no longer being utilized, like I try not to look at like it's a scalpel now, and like when I don't need it anymore, it's a butter knife. Like, I don't try to do that. I try to consider that it's always a scalpel, and that when I'm not using it, it could be used. It could be utilized. I just sold a pair of boots to to a guy in North Carolina, and I was like, hey man, I needed to sell them.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to sell them. I wasn't wearing them, but I've had a lot of experiences in those boots. And that's what I said. I was like, I hope that I hope that you dig them as much as I dug them. Because there's a lot of experiences in those. Like what people choose to think about. Like I kind of think about a lot of things that way. Like,
Yeah.
So would I like to keep everything forever? Yeah. But I don't, this is the first time in my life that I have a lot of the things that have meant the most to me. Mm-hmm. But I also find that like shit comes back. Like that 46, like I sold that to a buddy and then I bought it back from him. My 69, I traded to get the 47 and then I bought it back and then I sold it to a buddy. It just kind of like, somehow, some way it all kind of continues. So it's the same thing. Like,
do you feel like you'll have the one Oliver has at some point?
No, Oliver doesn't get rid of anything.
I've been in there.
He's a vault, dude. And I'm okay with that. Like I don't, whatever he chooses, it's his bike,
Yeah.
But I guess for me, it's and I think that you would agree that when you realize it's within you, mm-hmm. If you wanted those tins, you could paint another. You could paint and you do paint something that means the same thing, and then you have experiences with those. So it isn't something that like now it's gone forever.
Yeah.
It's not gone forever. Like it's moved on and it's being utilized by someone else. And that's what I found is that like that is the way. Like when I look at it that way, it's bringing someone else joy. Mm-hmm. I feel really good about it. Instead of like, I still have these longing like, oh man, I wish I could go for a ride on that or whatever. But honestly, it's a ride. Like,
Yeah.
You know how it is when the idea of, you don't always appreciate shit when you have it. And then you don't have it and you're like, man, I wish I had that. Like I would totally use that now. Yeah. And you get it back and you use it for a little bit and then you go right back to like not using it. So you're like, and this is why I fucking sold it in the first place. Like,
sounds like jumping back and forth from girlfriends,
Yeah, it is what it is. Like I think it's just the way human beings engage the world. Like, you're always, what's the saying? Like, show me a hot chick and I'll show you a dude that's tired of fucking her or something. That's, the reality is that like, you look at famous people that are super attractive and you're like, oh my God, like you're never going to get to, it's boobs and a vagina and an ass, man. Really like it's a person and I don't mean to like,
generally.
Yeah, I don't mean to do that. I'm just saying that like, if that's what you're focusing on, it's all the same. Like if your thing is built around the experience of that, you find the hollowness in it, like that it really doesn't matter that each person, if you're not investing in the person, mm-hmm. then you're never gonna really like.
I think also what people do with those things, like the relationships that meant a lot to you growing up, it's usually about what was going on in your life or whatever. The bikes that you had, it's the shit you did on them.
Totally.
It's like, I don't know if you'd have the same, when I've had bikes that I just did and they didn't ride that much, they just sat in the garage, they didn't really mean anything to me.
Right.
So it's like it's the experiences you have on these things that I think pull you back to it. It's like I said, like when you're thinking about that other girl you used to bang, it's like you're thinking about the other shit you used to do together, those experiences, like, and you're like, fuck man, I miss that. That's what I really want. And you're there and you're in it and you're like, fuck yeah, then you're like, fuck man, she does this shit, my other girl, you know what I mean? Like you just start playing this mind fuck.
I will go back to the resistance.
Yeah.
With motorcycles and anything else. Things that give you the most resistance, you remember.
Yeah.
because you work through the resistance.
Yeah, my FXR kept me on the side of the road.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that I think the further on you go, you look back to that's, it's not about like getting there. It's about,
it's a destination.
Yeah, it's not about the destination. It's the journey.
Yeah.
When you're fucking, when you're broke down on the side of the road, you're like, fuck that shit, dude. Like, fuck all that fucking romantic nonsense. But the reality is if you just start engaging the problem, whatever it is, you work through it, you creatively problem solve. Like, I did this shit with you MacGyvered it, you bubble gum and a fucking paper clip, and you made it to fucking someplace where there was a Napa, and then you bought JB Weld, and that got you to this fucking place. All of that shit later, I think by design, what it illustrates to you is that you can adapt and overcome.
Yeah, yeah.
And that means everything to human beings. Like when you think that I could never do that. Well, as long as you say that, you can't. I mean, when you go through the tough shit, man. Like when you have, I guess that's why sex is so much better after you've had a argument. You work through it. It's the struggle that makes for everything. And dude, that's totally true. And I tell so many people that about like riding cross country. It's like you never know what's going to happen. You never know whose bike it's going to be, and it might be yours. Right.
Sometimes figuring those things on the side of the road and finding a way to keep the pack moving, or keeping that person that might have had to cut the trip off, keeping him on the road, like it creates a sense of so much fucking accomplishment, man. And it really makes, we had a lot of that on this last trip we went to Cali, but even when we all get back together, we kind of still joke about the one guy that kept fucking up, but at the same time, he made it the whole trip, and we're more stoked that he got to experience the whole thing. And
well, the thing is that like, giving somebody shit about things like that, that's how you dial somebody in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like if somebody fucks up and you give them shit about it and they care, they're not going to fuck up. They're not going to make that. They may make other mistakes, but they're not going to make that mistake. That's a good thing. Like when people genuinely care about each other, it's you pointing out like, oh, you're fucking up right here. Fuck. And my response may be like, fuck off, Jace.
Yeah.
Fuck you. And I take off for a couple of minutes, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm totally fucking up. That's the thing. Like nobody, I don't know,
It's fucking humans are weird.
It is, but it's a good thing. Like it's how we're growing.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I said, it's a fun ride though, man. Like it is for me. I just like, I think I'm super fortunate to be able to do things like these podcasts, because talking to people, and really like just spitting shit out of your mouth and then letting the other person hear it and figure it out. It's like, it's really helped me evolve just my thinking and understanding shit. And man, I love it, man. Like, especially this, it's like, I've always enjoyed the podcast that you've done with Dan. And even though Dan always cuts him short, I always feel like, it's like, dude, let him keep talking, man. But another thing I wanted to say before we end up wrapping this up is like, dude, do you still do the Sunday fucking jams on the? I
haven't done one in a while, dude. But that's all a part of the fucking thing.
Yeah. So it's great, like for you guys out there listening, man. Like if you're on his Facebook, or I think you do it on Instagram too.
It's Instagram, yeah.
Okay, so it's like I'd always see it, and I'd just be scrolling down, and then bam, and I'd be like, usually I have the volume off because it's always some annoying ad or some shit.
Right.
And then I'm like, fuck, man, he's going hard right there. And it's like, it's just kind of like it pauses my scroll, and I'm just chilling, I'm just enjoying this minute or whatever long it's letting you do it. And I thought that shit was cool, man, because it's just like, it's another way that you found a way to captivate your audience. I think I like that word better than followers, right? Audience.
Yeah, that's true. It is true.
I like it's like another way you found to almost ground us. You know what I mean? Another thing you do, I was just down at Simpson last weekend. I was talking to those guys, and we were talking about you. And Scott loves you.
Yeah.
And he was like, because I think he likes when you like find those old Playboy things from like the 70s and shit, and you
that
post
70s
them.
shit.
Yeah, dude. And it's so crazy because like I probably tried so hard when I was a kid to beat off to that stuff, and it just never would work. But now I'm like, fuck, that bitch is hot. You know what I mean?
I really like. it's funny. So I grow up with that stuff. But, you go through the fucking 80s, 90s, 2000. I find myself now, like, I really like the aesthetics of that stuff.
It feels more real, dude. I mean, think about it. Like, all those women, they weren't full of plastic surgery. They weren't full of this shit.
Nope.
And, like, you ever feel like those old, like, race car, like that Jungle Pam shit? And
yes, dude.
Dude, I'm like...
Jungle Pam is hot as fuck,
yeah,
dude.
So hot, dude.
Yeah. I mean, we're not alone on that. Like, I think, like, everybody loves Jungle Pam. But
it's so crazy how, like out of nowhere, at least for me, out of nowhere, now I think maybe it's because of, like, you putting it out there for us to see and shit. It's like, fuck, man, like, I'm into that. You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing is that that's, I mean, for me, it's what it is. It's trying to, organically and authentically. Like the guitar stuff, that's really just another form. Music is fucking like, I don't do anything without music.
Yeah.
Music is, it's whatever else I'm doing, music is its equivalent.
Yeah.
Like it's the part of the fuel that's driving it.
Yeah.
So, playing guitar and playing music like that, I just dig that it's a quick thing that, like, I can either record a backing track or find a backing track, jam a little bit, and, fucking...
Do you get, like, people walking by and they stop and watch and listen?
Yeah, out front, totally. Right. Well, that's the craziest thing is that, like...
you always do it on the front porch.
I do it right on the front porch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Well, that was the thing. Like, when it started, I have this big PA speaker, and I point it out my office window,
mm-hmm.
and that plays out into the garage, or plays out into this empty lot in front of us. And then I have my amp sitting where I keep my amp, and I just turn it up accordingly so that where I'm standing, they're both, that I can hear the backing track well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just fucking, the weather in the springtime and in the fall, I would do that shit. I would just sit out there and noodle. Mm-hmm. So neighbors would come out, hey, right on. But then it turned into, like, people driving by, they'd stop and roll their window down, and they'd sit there for a couple of minutes. And because, some of these would go on for a half an hour. I would just sit out and jam for a half an hour. And then, like there would be people who would stop and get out, and when it starts coming into like making videos, making video posts, there are people who stop and get out and like
video it.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie would be the first ones. Jamie was just sitting there on an Apple box or a chair or something,
mm-hmm.
Holding my phone, and I'd be like, yeah, like in the time that you were sitting there were like 3 or 4 different people that came along, stopped and made videos.
Nice.
So it's kind of and then the neighbors, they'll repost, they're like, Tim's out fucking jamming or something, or they make their own,
So it's crazy because, like, it's that shit that I enjoy, right? I enjoy that aspect because that's something that you put out there, and then I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just like the photography, just like the reposting of the old Playboys and the other shit you do.
Totally.
It's like all that stuff is fun. It's like that part I don't want to not have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? When it comes to social media and all these shits.
No, of course not. No, and I would never, I think these are genuine, us talking about Instagram, these are genuine gripes. And the funny thing is my dad, after my mom died, my dad started like meeting people in chat rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you fucking weirdo. Like, get out and fucking meet real people. He's like, these are real people, dude. They're just fucking on the other end of a computer. I'm like, yeah, that shit's weird. I mean, this is like 2001, 2002. Yeah. My dad was way fucking ahead of the curve. Man, my dad was like, hey, look, this is just a part of life now. And I was like, it ain't a part of my fucking life. Fuck that noise. Like... And here we are.
Yeah,
like my dad would be his mind would be blown at like how spot on he was about the shit he was doing, Because what he did was it was this equestrian forum, equestrian singles maybe or something.
Yeah.
So, but he would have fucking parties. So people, like we'd go over there And I'm like, who the fuck are all these people, man? He's all, these people are from all over the United States. Like, I fucking posted that I was having a party, and this is fucking cool. I was like, that shit's weird, dude.
That's actually fucking cool as shit.
Fucking awesome, man. I mean, he literally, like, people were camping. He had 10 acres.
Yeah.
And people, you know, fucking drive out and they'd camp. Like, all over the shit that we really dig now. But in, like, 2000...
It makes you wonder, like, this is probably getting real deep, but it makes you wonder if, like, it's in us to where we enjoy more of the first encounters of people. You know, like, we enjoy that part of every relationship we ever had, the beginning of friendships, the beginning of relationships, where we get to reinvent ourselves a little bit and talk about it and put, so I'm into this, and this, and I leave the other parts out. Do you think that maybe, like, we enjoy that meeting people so much because we like that first feeling of getting to know somebody?
I think that that's a part of it, but I also think that we enjoy growing with people.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that, like, you know, most of the people that come into your life, all they get is that first week or first day or that first meeting or whatever. And only the, like, committed people hang around for the whole thing. But that's kind of the meat and potatoes. Like, that's where, you know, it's so you know, when we go to these shows and stuff, like, I just like I wouldn't hesitate if somebody said, like, hey, you know, what do you think about fucking something we've talked about? What do you think about, like, attention, like, I don't know, fucking some aspect of what we're talking about? I would I would carry on right from where we are right now to that. Like, because, you know, that's the shit that I'm really interested in. I just think that, like, as we get older and we boil it all down, we just kind of, you start, just like you did with your business, you start going, what can I live?
Trim the fat, yeah.
That's it. What do I need to do to be the most effective, but the most streamlined?
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, you know, so it is consequently, like, the guitar stuff. Like, I find that, like, when we're out, people will be like, hey man, fucking keep up the jams, dude. You know, I'm like, wow, fucking, that's really trippy that, like, the things that people like that. I had no idea that anybody ever even fucking saw this stuff. I was at this, it's called Dee Dee's now, but it was called Stan's at the time. And one of the band that was playing there, they finished up and they came over to our table and we're sitting there talking, drinking beers. And the lead singer says, like, I know you from somewhere. And I said, well, I'm fucking always here, man. You know? And he was like, no, it's not from here. And it was in the middle of winter. He said, do you have tattoos? And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, do you play the guitar? And I said, I do. And he said, do you, like, post videos out in front of your house? I was like, yeah. He was like, man, that's where I fucking know you from, dude. I love those fucking Sunday morning jizzams. I was like, that's fucking, like, that's really, because it's right here. But this person doesn't live, like, here. Yeah. Just turned out that they were playing there. So it's trippy. Like, it, you know, it's, I just feel like, you know, that it's, that I think that when you're working from the source, like, when you're, like, really in tune with where shit comes from, if you cultivate that in every aspect, I think that it moves people. It has a, you know, a vibrational quality. I
think what I like the most about it, and this might be me generalizing, but it feels like a real gift to everybody else, right? It's like, it's something that you're putting out there that is not a hustle.
Right.
It's not like, oh, you're trying to start a band. It's not like, it's not a marketing. It's just like, dude, like, this is just what I'm doing here, you know. And it really feels like a fucking gift, and might be get a little sentimental on that thing, but it does feel like that.
I'm stoked. That's because that's what it is. Like, there's no,
like, I'm thinking of myself, like, on my social media, like, what do I'm just portraying what I do, and it's not really the same thing. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, everything I feel like I post is there's a hustle behind it. You know what I mean? Not that it's not genuine. It's just that, like, this is me trying to promote that we do motorcycle trips, or we paint helmets, or we paint bikes, or we have a podcast. Like, there's no, like, you know, here's a tip for doing custom paint or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, see, this is the thing is that I would say to you to not
Yeah, I don't have that.
No, I would say to you to not encourage that line of thinking. Like, you know that you need to make money. I mean, I think that, like, you know, cut yourself some slack. Yeah. I mean, I think what you're getting at is you're saying, like, I'm doing this.
Well, I think we all want to be more positive. We all want that. I mean, I don't know anybody that just, I mean, I'm sure there's people, I don't really know anybody that's like, fuck, man, I just want to go ruin people's days.
Yeah.
So if you know, through social media in some form or fashion, that we could put something out there that people just truly like, fuck, man, like that stopped me in my tracks for a minute and made me feel good. Like that, you know, I guess, you know, it's not me. Like, that's not my thing. That's your thing. Well,
but it is. It may not be your thing right now, but the thing is this, is that recognizing that is how it comes to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, just plain and simply, like, when you see something and you recognize it for what it is, then it's going to start flourishing in you. It's going to start growing. It has no choice. Like, you recognize it, and if you have any desire to it.
I think maybe in my head, like, as I'm like digging deeper into that thought, it's like, maybe it's like me trying to validate myself in a way, like, I want to feel real, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
And not that I don't know, man. It's kind of a mind fuck, but it's like I said, with getting back to the very beginning of this conversation, it's like so much shit that I find myself doing every day. It's real. It's actually taking place, and it's actually me trying to capture that, but it just doesn't feel natural, you know. And so when I see that you know, that guitar playing, or even just the stuff that you repost, like I said, those pictures,
right?
It's just like a natural thing that it feels like you're doing.
Well, and the thing is, that's it. Is that you just, I can tell you that what you're experiencing is there's an uncomfortable. So you've been made aware of something, and now maybe that it's in an awkward state, but it's going to become comfortable. And when it becomes comfortable, then you really own it. And when that happens, then you just put it out there. You're like, you know, you don't really think of it. So that's what I'm saying. So, like, quieting down the talk about, like, oh, I'm just hustling. Because really what you're doing is you're kind of hitting yourself over the head. But that's not what you're doing. Like, you're like, I'm trying to do this, but I'm doing it for this reason. I mean, fuck that. Like, if the impetus to do it is pure, then it's pure.
Yeah. That's what I think the podcast is, man. It's really like I've always said, it's a being in the industry has gotten me in some doors, right? It's gotten me onto the table with certain people that if I was just a regular guy, you know, in the motorcycle world, I probably wouldn't have got an ear. You know what I mean? Right. So I've always felt like it's awesome to be able to take what my, you know, career has provided for me and let people hear about that shit, you know?
Right.
And so that's probably the one thing I feel like is it's probably the most honest thing, you know? But I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want at some point in my life for this to be my career.
Right.
Which means that it would pay my bills.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But, you know, I don't know. Like
the thing, to me, my experience has always said, like, you know, okay, if that's what I want, then I just, you know, you live into it.
Yeah, and that's what's happening.
You know, you become comfortable, and as you become comfortable, like, it's relatable.
See, I look at these episodes and these things that we've done, kind of like those first paint jobs. Like, right. I remember the conversation when I was in them, and oh man, that was awesome. Sometimes listening to the podcast, like, fuck, I sound like an idiot, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But at the same time, it's there. It's, you know, it
is what it is, and that the nice thing and the bad thing is it's the marked progress. It's the marking point for progress. I had a therapist that said, like, make a list of 25 things you want to do before you die. Mm-hmm. So I made this list, and I don't know, probably 5 years went by. I had done everything on that list. That was a list I wanted to do before I died. So the thing is that when you see it doesn't have to be written, but when you see it, it's real. Like it's going to remain in your consciousness. You're going to work towards that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be the reason that someone would give you that thing. It didn't, I thought like, I don't feel like a complete person and my life is made, like you said earlier. When you all of these things that you set for yourself, these goals you set for yourself, when you achieve them, it isn't like, boom, and you fucking, now you're walking on clouds and shit. And
it's almost, it can almost be a depressing place because now you don't know what to chase after.
Well, the thing is that you just, this goes directly to your point. To your point is that you do know you in this conversation, you have absolutely said, it's always there. The things that we want to do. So there's two of us, there's more, but there's two of us, like the one that needs to like make all the payments, the one that wants to creatively be fulfilled. Like, so you have to, it's a dance between these two
the
aspects.
The free thinker, lover, lustful one, and the got shit to do, responsible guy.
Exactly right. So the thing is as those two meet, like they're not at odds.
Yeah.
The thing is typically in our head and in our lives we pit like these things at odds. Like, oh, well, this is just my job. Now it's my time to do whatever the fuck I want. Like, how about you maximize your life and fucking make it all one? Like, don't keep them at odds. Like, let them work together. Like,
yeah. That's cool, man. We're almost at 3 hours, so.
Oh, fuck.
Well, hey, so you said issue 11's coming out?
Issue 11.
So, follow you on?
Instagram is tim.o'keefe. And the Stag Mag, and Facebook is the Stag Mag and tim.ok.
You have a website for like the magazine and stuff?
I don't. Well, the website is the Big Cartel, so it's thestagmag.com.
So you can catch that through the Instagram or Facebook pages.
Absolutely,
that's cool, dude. I appreciate this, man, and thanks for sitting down and.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's kind of a weird one, man. Like I said, a lot of heavy shit going on, and I was kind of hesitant at jumping back in these podcasts because I didn't really know where my head was, and I appreciate you. Help me sort this shit out.
100% my pleasure. Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
All right. Thanks, man. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Right after we finished doing this podcast, man, Tim showed me some of his art, some of his, he actually showed me his new issue 11, which should be coming out any week now, any day now, pretty much. What was really cool about it is that he mentioned in this podcast talking about like, sitting down and looking at the magazine through with like music playing, like there's a soundtrack to this magazine. And when we did that, like I sat there with him and he showed it to me. And at first I was like, okay. And then it like, as it went along, it just like, it felt more connected to the images. And I started getting idea or like, I started playing out images in my head to that soundtrack. It was a really cool way of looking at doing this stuff. So I don't know if you heard that part of the podcast, maybe check it out, maybe give it a try sometime. But anyway, I want to thank you, Tim, for doing this and kind of helped me through my little dark, I don't know if it's dark, but just just through my shit in my head, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that, sir. And I also want to thank you guys for sticking in with it and looking forward to doing more podcasts this month for you as well. In the meantime, don't forget to check out my guys, Dream Rides John, on Instagram, teamdreamrides.com. Use Fast Life at checkout for 10% off. Big Bear Choppers, Kevin over there, you can give him a phone call at 909-478-7788. Check out their website, bigbearperformance.com, and get yourself set up with some good suspension for your bike. I also want to thank Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram and painthuffer.com. Use Fast Life at checkout for 15% off. Lindahl Brakes on Instagram, lindahlbrakes.com, and Fast Life at checkout for 10% off there as well. Lexan Moto, check them out. Fast Life at checkout, 15% off on lexanmotorcycle.com. Trust me, guys, it's a great product, and I use it on all my helmets now. And hopefully you'll check it out as well. So anyway, I want to thank you guys, and also, had to plug the podcast, man. I really appreciate you guys supporting the the Instagram page. I think it's kind of complicated to run so many pages and shit. So I think I'm going to bring the Fast Life Podcast page back into the Fast Life Garage page, just to kind of help, market the shit to a broader audience and whatnot like that. But, also guys, if you don't mind, man, check out our Patreon. That's really, I get reached out so much by people that ask me about, like, do you have shirts? Do you have this? Do you have that? They want to support us. Well, the best way to do it is to do it by doing the Patreon. And I understand that you don't give me $1 and then you get a product back, but you're getting this podcast, and that money goes a long way to help make and bring more stuff onto this podcast. So think about it like this: $1 a month, that's $12 a year. You know what I mean? Like, it's really all it takes, if enough of you guys are doing that stuff to help us out. So I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. It's really, a fun thing that we're doing here, and I'm looking forward to going way further with all this content. Got a lot of plans. So anyway, thank you guys for checking us out. FastLifeGarage.com if you want to check out our Patreon links and our work and everything else about us. So I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll be back soon with another great podcast for you guys.